Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto awakens some crazy power from his own DNA. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto Uzumaki wolfed down his ramen at such a speed no one thought possible. He sat in his favorite seat in the local ramen shop at Ichiroku's since it was probably the only place that didn't kick him out. It had been like that all of Naruto's life. All his life he had been ignored by others. The adults all looked on him with scorn and anger in their eyes. The children followed his example. As a result, he was not very well liked by kids his own age, so he had no friends. On top of that, his parents died when he was born. Naruto was completely alone in the world. The only ones he could call friends or family was Ichiroku, his daughter Ayame, and his favorite teacher at the academy, Irika Yumino. Thanks for the ramen, old man, Naruto said with a big grin. No problem, Naruto, Tuchi said with a smile, and don't worry. The food's on the house tonight. Naruto smiled and said, thanks. With that, Naruto got up and left. The old man shook his head sadly. Ayame hung her head as she saw the boy walk away. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't live in a good part of town. He had been forced to live in a dingy apartment for the past few months since the orphanage had kicked him out recently. Said apartment was in the red light district where not very why good people were. As Naruto made his way through the village, a few drunk civilians were coming out of a bar. Little brat, the lead drunk said with a slur in his voice, walking down the street all proud and all. Let's teach that little punk a lesson. Naruto was walking, keeping an eye out when he heard the footsteps behind him. The boy started walking faster, and the footsteps sped up too. Pretty soon the young blonde was running at top speed. The blonde turned a corner to try and lose them but wound up in an ally. All right, demon brat, the lead drunk said, time for your punishment. Naruto WS10 grabbed and pretty much beaten hard. He yelled at them to stop, but they just wouldn't let up. After a few punches the boy was thrown away and hit the ground hard. The boy groaned and whimpered as he rose up from the ground. Looks like the little monster is still moving, the second-in-command drunk said. Let's beat him down again. The drunks approached Naruto. What they didn't notice though was that Naruto's eyes had now changed. Instead of the cerulean blue, they were now a deep green and they flashed with color. The drunks were about to converge on the child when he yelled, "Leave me alone." As he yelled, a huge blast of wind shot up, forming a twister that knocked the drunks off their feet, out of the alley, and head fist into a shop across the street. Meanwhile, an old man sat watching the incident, throwing a crystal ball on his desk. He was shocked to see the power Naruto had just shown. He had also seen how he had been attacked. He sat back in his chair and said, "Anbu." A trio of masked ninja appeared in front of him. "Bring Naruto Uzumaki here," the old man said. "I want to have a word with him." The Anbu all said in unison, "Hi Hokage-sama." Back with Naruto, the blonde was staring at the three now unconscious men. "What did I just do?" he asked to no one in particular. At that moment a trio of Anbu appeared and quickly grabbed the boy before disappearing. They reappeared in the old man's office. As soon as they did, Naruto yelled, "Who? What? When? Where? How?" "Oh hi Gigi," the old man smiled. This was another person Naruto could call family. The old man had cared for Hai when he was really young. He also helped him when he needed it most. He was the closest thing the blonde had to a grandfather. "Naruto," the old man said, "I want to discuss the recent incident where you were attacked by the drunks in the alley." Naruto rose an eyebrow and said, "I'm not in trouble, am I?" The old man shook his head and answered, "No. I'm interested in it is all." Naruto looked one and said, "I don't know what that was. It's the first time it's ever happened." The old man rubbed his chin and said, "Naruto, do you know what a Kekai Genkai is?" The blonde shook his head and said, "No. The teachers at the academy always threw me out of class when we were discussing something important." The Hokage smacked himself in the forehead and said, "I can't believe this. A Kekai Genkai is a mutation of one's DNA. The result is a dramatic increase in power that can have limitations or drawbacks. I believe you may have just activated one." Naruto looked at the old man and said, "Cool." The Hokage looked at Naruto and said, "Naruto, I have to ask. What were you doing in that part of town anyway?" Naruto lowered his head and said, "The old lady in charge of the orphanage threw me out. She said something about demons being able to care for himself by now." The old man in front of him gripped the arms of his chair so tightly the arms almost cracked. "I see," the old man said. "Naruto, I have realized something. You need proper guidance if you are to use this new power. I don't think that any of the teachers at He Academy will be able or willing to teach you if it means you getting stronger." Naruto hung his head as he heard this. "Therefore I'm going to do it myself." The young boy looked up at the Hokage with bright eyes. "You mean you'll train me, Gigi?" Naruto asked with sparkly eyes. The old man nodded. "Yada!" The blonde cheered and started doing a funny-looking happy dance. "Naruto," the old man said with an amused smile. Naruto stopped his dance and blushed in embarrassment. If the Anbu in the room weren't so well trained, they would have busted out laughing at the sight of the boy dancing. "So when do we start?" Naruto asked excited. "Tomorrow," the old man said. "During training you will stay at my clan complex." Naruto smiled happily at the old man. This is how a legend started. The training Naruto was put through was pretty much torture. Since Naruto's chakra coils hadn't fully developed yet, Sarutobi, the old man, put him through strength and endurance training. The blonde had to run for miles with very heavy weights on his legs, arms, and chest. He also had to do multiple strike exercises, 300 punches with both arms, 300 kicks with each leg, 80 push-ups, 50 squats, and onward. When Naruto got used to one exercise, the number increased each time. Naruto also learned 3 fighting styles. The first was the Maikon Kabushi, Wild Fist. Instead of a set path like other styles, this one used irregular attacks and unorthodox methods to fight. What made it useful was that the basics were always the same while everything changed because whatever the user learned could be incorporated into the style. The second was the hummingbird style, which utilized the hands and feet aiming at the weak parts of the body, such as certain points on the body that can lead to paralysis, or the joints. The final style was the Asaiki Kabushi, Crusher Fist. While most styles relied on the hands and feet, this style utilized the hands, feet, knees, and elbows to attack an enemy. All the styles were fast and brutal. When Naruto's chakra coils completely developed, things got underway. Sarutobi was surprised when he found that Naruto had very high reserves for someone so young. It also meant that he would have trouble with certain things. The high chakra reserves made it hard for him to perform genjutsu since they didn't need much chakra to perform. It also meant that he wouldn't be able to perform a normal clone. Instead, he taught Naruto the shadow clone, which required more chakra than normal. Thanks to Naruto's reserves, he could use more than a normal jonan. While training, Naruto used chakra control exercises like tree walking, water walking, kunai balancing, and leaf spinning to improve his control, which helped him greatly in the field. While training, Naruto realized that he gained a shadow clone's memory when it was destroyed. With the help of his clones, Naruto could train all the harder and learn more much faster. This became a great help when training with his fighting styles and jutsu training. After 3 years of training, Naruto and Sarutobi began experimenting with his bloodline. Naruto found that he had control over all the elements used in jutsu. He was able to instantly use them as a defense or offense. He also found that by focusing that nature chakra of a certain element, he could drastically increase the power of a jutsu. He decided to call this bloodline the Byutai Shusho Kekai Genkai, Elemental Master Bloodline Limit. The pair also found that Naruto's eyes changed color when he called on a certain element. Green for wind, brown for earth, red for fire, blue for water, and white for light. They also found that Naruto could use sub-elements. When he did, one eye was the color for one element, and another color for another element. For example, if Naruto wanted to use lava, one eye was red and the other was brown. While training, Naruto matured. The intense training made the blonde finally realize that being a ninja was a serious thing. He couldn't be all loud and obnoxious when he was on the battlefield, otherwise he would get himself, or his team, killed. After a few years, he managed to break himself of that. During Tusu training, Naruto took a deep interest in hand signs and what they meant. Naruto studied the subject of them for a long time. Eventually, Naruto started experimenting. After a few months of experiments, the blonde, much to the shock and delight of the Hokage, started creating his own techniques. He even created special taijutsu moves that he could pull off with the help of his bloodline. Naruto got a chance to learn seals while training as well. He learned storage seals, suppression seals, lock seals, and much more. During this, Naruto took an interest in weapons. To help his student grow, Sarutobi took Naruto to a weapons store called the Iron Ninja. The store was covered from top to bottom with weapons. There Naruto searched and found a few weapons. A Kuzurigurigama that had a medium-sized scythe on one end of the chain and spiked weight on the other. A katana that had a black blade with a white edge and an ember in the hilt that was made to absorb perspiration. A large bow staff with weights on each end. And a pair of tonfa that were painted black with small blades along its length and small weights on the ends. After 7 long years of training and a lot of shadow clones later, the civilians and ninja of Konoha were all sitting down in the stadium that was in the center of the village. Most of them were wondering why they had been called to the stadium at this time. In the middle of the arena was Hate Gecko, Mato Guy, and Kakashi Hatake. After a few minutes and everyone had found their seats, Sarutobi got up and said, "Please Konoha. For the past few years I have kept a secret from you. For the past 7 years I have taken on a student." Surprised murmurs went up through the crowd. "Today he will be tested to see if he is worthy of the rank of jonan," the old Kage said. "First will be Mato Guy in taijutsu, Hate Gecko in kenjutsu, and Kakashi Hatake in ninjutsu. At least they will as soon as he gets here." At that moment a pillar of flames shot up from the ground. The ninja gathered, including the recently graduated genin, stared in awe. The flames died down, revealing a figure around the age the new graduates. He was about 5'4" with spiky blonde hair. He wore a black jacket that had orange stripes running up the sleeves and forming an X on the back. Under the jacket he wore a black shirt, ANBU-style pants, and blue sandals. They could see his face because over it he wore an ANBU-style mask modeled after a fox. He also had bandage wrapped around his wrists and hands and his ankles. With the new graduates, a puppy whimpered. The owner of Sad Puppy looked down at his dog and said, "What is it, boy?" The dog barked something and the owner said, "Whoa." A guy in a gray coat with a high collar and sunglasses looked at the Orin, who wore a gray hoodie and had fan tattoos on his face, and said, "What is it, Kiba?" Kiba looked at the boy and said, "This guy has some pretty impressive strength, Shino. It takes somebody pretty strong to make Akamaru tremble." Back in the arena, Mato Guy, a guy with big eyebrows, a green jumpsuit, and round eyes stepped forward. I shall test you first, my friend, Guy said. Now let us see how bright your flames of youth burn. The figure didn't answer. He just got into a taijutsu stance that Guy didn't recognize. Guy got into his own stance. The resident taijutsu master charged at the newcomer with incredible speed. The man simply dodged to the left and threw out an arm. Due to his speed, Guy didn't stop in time and became the victim of a clothesline. Guy crashed to the ground and jumped up almost instantly. He swung his leg around in a sweeping kick that the figure jumped over. While jumping, he threw out a kick that Guy caught. He brought up his other leg, which Guy was able to catch. The blonde then shifted himself down and caught he ground with his hand, lifting his leg up, carrying Guy. The blonde then spun around, spinning Guy like a top, and then threw him into the stadium wall. Guy-sensei! Came the voice of a boy in the stand who looked just like Guy, only smaller. Guy pried himself out of the wall. Guy got back into his stance and charged again. This time the blonde spun around to avoid the kick aimed at him. He threw out a fist that caught Guy in the back. Guy stumbled before turning around. The blonde was suddenly in front of him. The blonde then gave a quick punch to the stomach that made Guy double over. This was followed by an elbow to the face, a knee to the ribs, the boy's shin crashing into Guy's face, sending him flying. Guy rolled across the ground before stopping in a handstand and flipping himself up. Guy spat out some blood. Unless you get serious, the blonde said, I just might really hurt you, bug eyes. Guy cracked his neck. He then reached into his pant legs and pulled out a pair of weights. He dropped them to the ground with a loud crash. The blonde cocked his head to the side. The blonde then formed a hand sign and said, release. He instantly felt lighter. Guy and the blonde vanished. After a few minutes, the sound of crashing filled the air. Multiple cracks in the ground formed as the two incredibly fast ninja hit each other. After 5 minutes, everything stopped. The blonde and Guy reappeared. The pair now had multiple bruises. Guy rubbed his sore wrist. The blonde shook his hands as if he had just hit something very hard. Sandame-sama, pant, must not have been lenient in your training, Guy said. His only answer was for the blonde to shake his head no. Guy smiled, flashing his bright teeth, and said, this has been a valiant fight, my friend, but I must end this. Guy reached for the bandages wrapped around his arms. He slowly unwrapped them. The blonde vanished from sight. Guy suddenly doubled over as he felt his opponent's knee slam into his gut. The blonde brought up his opposite leg and sent Guy flying upward. The blonde's hands were then surrounded by miniature tornadoes. He slammed one foot into the ground, launching himself upwards. He went above the flying Guy and descended. As he fell, he yelled out, crashing hurricane. The masked boy unleashed a flurry of combos that hit Guy in the joints of his shoulders, arms, legs, and ankles. The masked boy ended the fight by bringing up both arms and slamming them down onto the taijutsu specialist's chest as they hit the ground, forming a crater. The blonde stood up. The blonde rubbed his sore hands and said, brutality. Winner, Fox. Everyone stared in shock as Konoha's taijutsu specialist was just beaten into the ground. The medicars arrived and pulled Guy out of the ground and off to the medical ward. The mini-me of Guy ran off to join his sensei. Hade coughed slightly before jumping up and jumping down from the fighter's box to join the blonde in the arena. The kenjutsu specialist drew his katana. The blonde undid the bandages on his arm, revealing 2 seals. He unsealed the one closer to his wrist, unsealing a black katana with a white edge and an ember in the hilt. The blonde got into a stance and pointed the blade at the sickly jonan with one hand. The two then ran at each other and met with a loud clang. The two swung their weapons, meeting again and again with loud clangs and sparks. The two finally stopped and stood at a standoff. Guy was right, the sickly jonan said with a smile. The sandame wasn't letting you off in training. The blonde just nodded in response. The two then broke apart. It continued like this for a while. Attack, parry, counterattack, dodge, attack. After a few minutes of this routine, Gecko then formed a pair of shadow clones. The three then charged at he blonde. Crescent moon dance. The blonde braced himself for the oncoming attack. He simply held the blade parallel to his body and it met with a loud clang. There was a tense silence before Hayate's sword shattered like glass. The swordsman stepped back in shock and looked at his shattered sword and said, how? The blonde let out a low laugh and said, this sword is capable of taking on earth chakra to harden. It just took a lot of it to harden it to that level. Now let me show you my favorite sword technique. The blonde then focused chakra into his sword, causing the blade to become covered in wind. Hade braced himself just in time for the blonde to swing the sword and say, tornado slash. A twister shot was thrown from the blade. Hade jumped out of the way of the oncoming attack, but the blonde spun slightly, causing the attack to pivot and strike the man in the arm. Hade screamed in pain as his arm was shredded. He fell to the ground with a thud as his arm was completely covered in cuts. The blonde vanished and reappeared in front of Hade with the sword pointed at his neck. Brutality, the blonde said as he looked down at Hade. Winner, Fox. The crowd roared again. What is this guy? Kakashi thought, I couldn't copy that sword technique or that taijutsu style he used. It wasn't one style, it was more like he took more than one and put them together. Kakashi came down from the fighter's box and put away that little orange book he was reading and lifted up his headband, which was covering his right eye, to reveal a red eye with 3 comma-like mark in them. So that's the Sharingan, the blonde said with a raised eyebrow behind his mask. I thought it would be more impressive or threatening. Kakashi simply scoffed and said, just because it doesn't look deadly doesn't mean it isn't. Fox cracked his neck and then his knuckles. Kakashi blurred through hand signs and said, fire style, fireball jutsu. The two silver-haired man fired a large fireball at the blonde. The boy simply held out his hands and turned, diverting the flames. He spun around and set the flames flying right back at the man. Kakashi dodged to the right to avoid the flames aimed at his person. Naruto charged forward and drew back his arm, yelling out, hurricane shot. The blonde fired a powerful gust of wind that Kakashi took head-on. The silver-haired jonan was knocked off his feet and into the stadium wall. I couldn't copy that either, he thought as he pulled himself out of the wall. Kakashi then charged at the blonde, who got into another stance. The blonde dodged to the right and unleashed a quick shot to the man's shoulder, disabling it. Kakashi stumbled before spinning on his heel. The blonde then swung around, aiming his leg at the blonde's skull. He ducked under the kick before swinging his arm up, nailing the silver-haired man with an uppercut. Kakashi rolled across the ground and rolled his shoulder and cracked it before going through more hand signs. Fire style, dragon fire blast. The blonde focused chakra into his hands and yelled, hydro pump. A huge jet of water shot out of his hands, colliding with the dragon and putting out the flames. Steam rose into the air as the flame were put out. Kakashi stood up with his arms crossed. His guard was relaxed, but not completely down. Wind style, drilling air bullet. A bullet of wind shot through the air. Kakashi barely managed to jump out of the way. The bullet slammed into the wall, drilling a huge crater. Fox shot out of the steam and said, heat fists. The boy's hands burst into flames and unleashed a combo that Kakashi was smart to dodge. Kakashi grabbed the boy by the front of his jacket and threw him away. As he did, Kakashi quickly went through hand signs. He held out his hand and lightning started focusing in his palm. The sound of birds filled the air. Kakashi then charged at Fox, yelling, Chidori. Fox focused chakra into his hand. Small sparks danced on his hand. Kakashi's attack got closer and closer, and then Kakashi's eyes were wide in shock. His strongest attack was just stopped cold by some kid. That was the Chidori? The blonde asked. He scoffed and said, some assassination technique. Noisy and so little control over the elements, someone could easily detect it. Since the attack is so obvious, someone of your level or higher could easily catch it. The blonde rose his left hand and said, this is an assassination technique. The blonde focused chakra into his hand, bright sparks flashed, and his entire hand glowed with electricity. The only noise it made was a silent buzz. The blonde drew back his fist and yelled, thunder shot. The blonde slammed his fist into Kakashi's chest, blasting out the back. There was a gasp of terror from everyone watching. Then there was a poof as Kakashi burst into smoke, revealing a bisected log. Kakashi now stood a few feet away, breathing hard. That was really close, Kakashi thought as he calmed down his heart rate. Before the fight could continue, the Sandaime intervened and said, that is enough. The old man vanished via Shushin and then reappeared across from the two. He turned to Kakashi and said, Kakashi, go. You need to relax after nearly getting killed like that. The old Kage turned to his student and said, I must admit you were right when you said you were jonan level, Sarutobi said with a smirk. I thought that you were exaggerating when you brought up the suggestion. Anyway, I must admit I underestimated my own student. Not the first time. Anyway, remove your jacket. The blonde removed his jacket, showing his arms were surprisingly muscled. This made all the girls present swoon. The Kage reached into his robes and took out a vest with the kanji for Element Master on the back. He handed the vest to the boy, who put it on. I officially congratulate you on your victory here, my student, and I am proud to welcome you among the ranks of the jonan. The old man eyed with a proud smile. Now why don't you take off that mask? Show the people our young prodigy. The masked boy nodded before reaching up and lifting his mask. As he removed it, people gasped. The blonde's eyes were dark blue with slightly slit pupils and whisker marks that made his face stand out. The girls present blushed as they saw the new jonan's face. Welcome to the ninja world, Naruto Uzumaki, the Sandaime said with a smirk at the shocked looks from everyone. The Hokage had made many choices in his life. Some he regretted, some he was glad he made. Right now he was regretting making Naruto a jonan. The council had pretty much thrown a fit. They were demanding how H had trained Naruto, what he taught him, and how he had reached jonan level so quickly. Naruto was there too, but he seemed to be ignoring the pains in the neck that were the councilmen. Finally, sick of all this noise, the old man slammed his hands on the desk and roared, enough. The yell silenced the council and echoed throughout the council chambers for a second. The old man looked at Naruto, who wasn't doing anything. The blonde reached into his ears and pulled out a pair of earplugs. How come I've never thought of getting those? The old man thought. Hokage-sama, a fat councilman said, I implore you to take back this boy's jonan rank. Hiruzen looked at a councilman and said, I think not. Naruto earned his rank and he will keep it. Come to think of it, why do you even think you can revoke it? This is a shinobi matter, not a civilian one. The fat man huffed before plopping back down in his seat. I failed to see why you would even want to train the boy in the first place, a councilwoman said. The old man looked down at the woman and said, the reason I trained him is because you know. Why don't you show them? Naruto smirked and rose up from his seat. The blonde quickly formed 4 clones. The original's eyes turned red, another green, another blue, another white, another brown. The original Naruto formed a large fireball in his hands. The one with green eyes formed a twister in his hands. The one with white eyes shot a bolt of lightning from his fingers at the wall. The one with blue eyes pulled water out of the air and whipped at a desk, slicing it in half. The one with brown eyes slammed his fist on the ground, causing spikes of earth to shoot up. The council stared in shock. An in particular was very shocked. He was Heishi Hyuga, the patriarch of the Hyuga clan. He had his Byakugan activated, and what he saw shocked him. There was no chakra in the elements in front of him. They were the elements themselves. What's so special about that? Suminozuka said with a raised eyebrow, plenty of ninja no elemental manipulation. Hayashi looked at the woman and said, that's because there is no chakra in those elements. He isn't manipulating elements, he's actually controlling them. The council gasped loudly. Now then, the old Kage said before a councilman could say something, the other reason I called this meeting is because I was going to reveal the boy's heritage. Another particularly arrogant councilman said, what heritage? He is an orphan. Sarutobi shook his head and said, he does have heritage. Look at him and think you know what Shikaku just tell us. The head of the Naru clan muttered something under his breath and said, it's obvious he's the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Everyone gasped. Immediately the civilian part of the council started shouting denials. The shinobi clans simply covered their ears while Shikaku Nara promptly fell asleep to try and ignore the annoying and troublesome people. Naruto finally got sick of the shouting, since he didn't put his earplugs back in, quickly focused his chakra into his mouth throat and roared, enough alerty. The deafening yell echoed through the air and actually knocked the few people in front of him off their feet. Finally they shut up, Hiruzen said with a look of total relief on his face. What? Suminozuka yelled as the freakishly loud yell had messed up her hearing. I suggest we put him under the CRA immediately, a pink-haired councilwoman said. I believe that I may be able to. She was cut off when Naruto said, I'm not sure if I'll be in the CRA. Even if I am not going to be tricked into some loveless marriage. With nothing else to say to the idiots that sat before him, he got up and left. Meeting adjourned, the Kage said as he rose up from his seat. Later, Naruto sighed as he walked through the village. So far he had seen many girls give him some crazy stare where their eyes were in the shape of hearts. Well, some of them were in the shape of stars. All the while he noticed some of the younger children were looking at him with looks of idolization. He was glad that he made an impression on kids, but he was still upset with the angry glare some of the parents gave him. Despite some minor annoyances, Naruto was happy to be a jonan. He was closer to his dream. He decided to celebrate with his favorite spot in town. Naruto walked into the Ichiroka stand and saw Irika was sitting there talking to Ayam. Soon the ramen chef looked at Naruto, a huge smile covered her face. The woman charged at the boy and hugged him tight. I can't believe you're already a jonan, the girl squealed. Wait, there was something else that I wanted to tell you. Oh right. The woman brought back her hand and slapped him hard. Do you have any idea how worried I was? The girl yelled. When you didn't come in for ramen the next day, I got really worried. Naruto recovered from the slap and said, sorry, Ayam-chan. The girl then hugged him again and said, don't scare me like that again. Naruto smiled as he hugged the young ramen chef back. He looked down and noticed something. There was a ring on her finger. Ayam, what is that? Naruto asked curiously. You like it? She asked, showing her the ring. I got it from my new boyfriend. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Ayam shifted her gaze. Naruto followed the gaze and looked straight at Irika. No way! Naruto yelled. When did this happen? Ayam blushed and said, a few weeks ago. Some punk was trying to hit on me. When I rejected him, he got a little forceful. Irika was walking by and became my knight in shining armor for that moment. After a while we wound up dating. Naruto smiled happily and said, I'm glad to see that you guys are happy together. While I'm here, Ayam-chan, I'll take the normal. The ramen girl smiled happily and said, 8 extra large miso and 2 extra large pork ramen coming right up. As soon as Ayam entered the kitchen, Naruto grabbed Irika by the collar and lifted him up off the ground. I don't care if Tsuchijiji gave you this speech already, the blonde growled. If you so much as make Ayam-chan whimper in sorrow, or if you hurt her in any way, I will tear out your heart. Irika nodded quickly. At that moment Ayam came out with a tray full of ramen bowls and said, Naruto, stop threatening my boyfriend. Naruto smiled at her and said, what kind of little brother would I be if I didn't try to be overprotective? After Irika recovered from his near-heart attack, and Naruto quickly downed his ramen, the new jonan left the ramen stand. Irika shuddered and said, he's a lot scarier now than when he was a loudmouth. Ayam only giggled at her boyfriend's misfortune. Naruto was currently walking through the village. To be more specific, he was walking through the training grounds. He was currently looking to see if he could find any of the other jonan. He was walking through the training grounds when he noticed a huge forest that was surrounded by a fence with barbed wire. Naruto heard loud noises and growls coming from the forest, which in all honesty looked more like a jungle. The blonde stood there for a moment until he was nearly hit by a barrage of kunai. The blonde's eyes flashed green and a pulse of wind knocked them all away. You're that new jonan brat, a female voice said. Naruto turned and a purple-haired woman with her hair done up in a pineapple-like shape. She wore an orange skirt, sandals with shin guards, a long brown trench coat. Under the trench coat she wore a mesh fishnet shirt. Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, Brat? You're talking to a guy who kicked a lot off butts today. The woman rolled her eyes and said, "You think that intimidates me? I've seen plenty of people get their butts kicked." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the woman and said, "Is there a reason that you're trying to irritate me?" Enko smirked and said, "I want to see how much it takes to make you snap, big man." Naruto growled in anger, but before he could do anything an ANBU appeared in between the two. "Uzumaki-san," the ANBU said, "you have been summoned by the Hokage." The ANBU vanished. Naruto looked at Mitarashi and said, "Sorry, little one, but we're going to have to save our little verbal joust for another time." The blonde vanished in a flash of fire. The woman stared at the spot and smirked. "I have a feeling this is going to be the start of a beautiful friendship," Enko said to herself. "Or at least it will be once he gets back." In the Hokage's office, Naruto appeared in sudden flash of flames. He looked around to see the Hokage sitting at his desk along with some Inuzuka, what was wearing an old jonan outfit, and a scarred wolf. "Naruto," the Hokage said, "I'm glad you made it here so quickly. I require you for a mission." Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, "Already? Can't you get someone else to do it?" The old man looked at Naruto and said, "I would, but some of my best are in the hospital right now. Besides, you need to get some field experience." The old man took out a file and said, "Now yesterday we sent Ms. Inuzuka's daughter, Hana Inuzuka, on a mission to take care of a few bandits. Unfortunately, the force was larger than we expected. She was captured. We haven't received any ransom of any kind, so we are to presume that she is merely to be used." Naruto growled slightly. He heard of this, and he thought it was completely heinous. "Your mission," the old Kage explained, "is to rescue Hana Inuzuka and destroy all the bandits in the camp. You will be aided by Tsum Inuzuka, because 1, it's her daughter, and 2, she wants to get out of her house." Naruto gave a questioning glance to the Inuzuka matriarch who said, "I don't like feeling cooped up. Besides, it'll feel good to sharpen my claws again." Naruto shrugged and said, "I accept." With that, the pair and dog ran off. A few hours later, Naruto, Tsum and Kuramaru, Tsum's dog, crouched in the bush a little ways from the bandit camp. Kuramaru sniffed the air and said, "I can smell them. Hana and the triplets are here." Naruto looked at Tsum and said, "He can talk?" Tsum answered, "Yeah, he can talk. You get used to it after a while." Naruto nodded and said, "So how are we going to do this? We can't just barge in and take Hana back. It would be suicide." Tsum nodded in agreement. "We have to do something to disperse them," Tsum said, "make them panic. It would be easier to pick them off after that." Naruto rubbed his chin. Naruto then snapped his fingers and said, "I have an idea." He whispered into the Tsum's ear his plan. Tsum smirked at the sound of Naruto's plan. Then again, it wouldn't be crazy if he wasn't the most unpredictable ninja in the village. Meanwhile, in one of the tents, Hana Inuzuka struggled against her bindings. It was supposed to be a simple mission. Instead, she gets pulled into this campi by a bunch of low-life bandits. Now here she was tied to a chair and being leered at by a bunch of good-for-nothing perverts. If she wasn't tied up right now, she would show them how she became one of the main members of the APA, Anti-Pervert Association. Next to her were her 3 partners. They were currently hogtied with their mouths tied shut with rope. "You might as well give up, little woman," a gruff voice said. She looked up to see the reason behind her mission going south. He was a tall, dark-skinned, burly man. He was about 6 feet tall, with short black hair and bulging muscles. He also had a thick black beard. He wore a black muscle shirt that showed off his physique and black cargo pants, as well as a holster on left side of his belt. Wrapped around his left arm was an IWA headband that had a long gash running across it. His name was Kaiza Mashimoto, aka the Burning Fist, and the Flaming Rage. He was an A-rank missing nin from IWA. "You know, girl, you should be honored," the former IWA nin said as he walked forward. "Not very many girls catch my eye. You should consider it a privilege to become my new plaything." Hana growled and spat in his face. Kaiza wiped the spit off his face and said, "I love it when a babe plays hard to get." He made another move to touch her when screaming tore through the air. Kaiza reluctantly pulled away from Hana and stormed out the tent. What he saw shocked him to his core. In front of him, his entire bandit squad was being destroyed. The ground beneath them was turned up as huge roots rose up and pierced bandits through the chest. The branches in the trees came to life and shot out, piercing even more bandits. Then a dark voice roared, "Human scum! You dare defile my home!" The bandits shook with fear as the voice seemingly came from everywhere. "You destroy my children! Violate the earth with the blood of the innocent! For that you will die!" The bandits ran in terror, trying to find cover in the trees. The only reason they tried that was because some of them were drunk off their butts from a night of partying. The others who tried were just really panicked. The bandits who tried hiding only screamed even louder as they were torn apart by their own cover. Kaiza, however, was not fooled by the display. He sensed chakra running through the roots and branches. He sent out a pulse of chakra A and found the source. What he didn't notice, though, were 4 figures sneaking among the attacking roots. He quickly went through hand signs and yelled, "Fire style! Great fire cannon!" The IWA missing nin fired a huge blast of fire from his mouth. The flames singed the roots nearby. The flames shot forward. As they closed in, the flames illuminated the hiding Naruto, whose eyes were brown and blue. "Oh crud!" the blonde yelled as he saw the fireball. His eyes immediately changed red. The roots stopped moving and flames dispersed around Naruto. The sparks lit the trees with a small fire that was steadily growing. "So a little Konoha nin has come to save the little doggy girl," Kaiza laughed, I hate to tell you this, punk, but I'm not giving her up. Kaisa's arrogant and smug mood instantly changed when Naruto's face was illuminated by the slowly spreading flames around him. His smug smirk was replaced with a look of absolute fear. He slowly backed away from the whiskered blonde. The yondaime, he said with terror obvious in his voice, it's not possible. You're supposed to be dead. Naruto let out a dry chuckle and said, though I'm glad to see there is a resemblance between me and the fourth, I'm not him, I'm his son. Kaisa instantly calmed down and said, so we just have a yondaime wannabe, huh? This is so going to be easy. The missing nin charged, drawing back his arm. Naruto got into a hummingbird-style stance and prepared for combat. The missing nin threw a quick punch that Naruto was able to dodge quickly and took a shot at the man's shoulder. There was a loud crack as his shoulder was pierced by the chakra-enhanced strike. He growled in pain as he spun around and tried to kick the blonde away, who merely parried the blow with his elbow and unleashed a quick and powerful combo to the man's midsection. Naruto then delivered a vicious roundhouse kick to Kaisa's head, knocking him off his feet. While the two fought, Some snuck out of the tent with her daughter and her 3 partners in tow. During the whole forest demon fiasco, Some snuck in with Kuramaru under the cover of the attacking roots. Luckily for her, when Kaisa sent out a chakra pulse, she had hidden hers well enough to slide just under his radar. While Naruto was fighting Kaisa, she freed her daughter and the dogs and was now getting the heck out of the way. Naruto saw the two Inuzuka get away. He smirked to himself before unleashing a brutal combo that broke Kaisa's nose. The man jumped back and roared in a nasally voice, "Oh, you little punk. I'll get you for that." Naruto cracked his neck and said, "I'd like to see you try." The man quickly went through hand signs. Naruto's eyes turned green quickly before he whipped out a kunai and threw it. The wind-enhanced tool cut through Kaisa's shoulder. The man screamed in pain as his arm was sliced off. Naruto's eyes then turned white and said, "This is a new jutsu I've been working on. I'd say now is a good time for a field test." Naruto's eyes flashed white as he blurred through hand signs. He looked at Some, Hana and the Niken and said, "You might want to get out of the way." The serious tone he used made the group listen to him and run for it. Lightning formed around his hand. Naruto rose his hand as the electricity soon covered his entire arm. The blonde then roared, "Lightning style, ultimate technique, Thor's hammer." Author's note: I would like to thank Man of the Western Light for giving me the idea for this jutsu. Naruto slammed his fist into the ground. The result was an electric shockwave that spread out far and wide around him. Kaisa, who was frozen in pain, didn't move an inch. The lightning wave hit him hard, making him scream in absolute agony. The IWA missing nin was soon just a pile of burned flesh. The ground right beneath Naruto and some of the area around him was completely turned to glass. Naruto panted hard and said, "Fatality?" Naruto surveyed the damage and said, "Nice effect. I still have to learn to deal with the chakra drain though." Nearby, Hanatsu and their canine companions all had their jaws on the floor. Note to self: never get on that kid's bad side, Hana thought. Well, what a move, Some thought. Naruto then made his way back to the stunned group. His eyes were still glowing slightly with white chakra and a few sparks of lightning were still flashing around him. Hana blushed and immediately thought, "No. Bad Hana. You already have a boyfriend." Some, however, was thinking, "Wow. What a man. Wait, what am I thinking? He's a lot younger than me. Still, he is pretty hot. No. Bad. Bad Some." Naruto approached the two girls who were still in the middle of inner monologue and clapped his hands in front of them. "Sorry to interrupt your mental yelling," the whiskered boy said, "but we need to get back to Konoha." As they were about to leave, Some brought something up. "Hey kid," the Inuzuka matriarch said, "aren't you going to try and get that guy's bounty?" Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, "That guy actually had a jounty? I guess being a young jonan has its benefits." Naruto took a scroll out from under his jonan vest and said, "I decided to take the man's head since I figured that since he was a missing nin he might have a bounty on his head." "Good thought, huh?" Some nodded and said, "Good thought. I think he was A rank or so. You'll get a lot of riot for the guy." Naruto smiled his usual foxy grin and said, "Thanks, Some-chan." He turned away from the woman just in time to miss the slight blush she had on her face. Hana noticed it, however, and thought, "I don't know if he's into older women or not, but if that little runt hurts my mom, I will personally claw that little runt's eyes out." Naruto felt a sudden chill and resisted the urge to shudder. It had been a few weeks since Naruto had gone on his mission with Some to save Hana and her triplet dogs. The blonde had gained a lot of respect from the jonin and chunin after the rescue mission. In fact, he gained the respect and the support of the entire clan, including Kiba, and it took a lot for that boy to give somebody respect. Naruto also became one of the youngest people put in the bingo book. His file went like this: Name: Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Alias: Element Master. Age: 13. Rank: jonin. Affiliation: Konohagakure. Weapons: unknown. Abilities: able to focus elements without the use of chakra. He is able to use them for both defense and offense. Warning: has an incredibly high chakra reserve. Despite age, do not underestimate is jonin for a reason. Seriously, don't get cocky, it will be the death of you. A few days after Naruto got back from the mission, he found something very unfortunate. He had developed a fan club. A few of them were after him because of his name, while others were after him because he was good looking. Naruto gently rejected them both. He was also approached by many women from the civilian council so they could gain some political power and have his bloodline in their ranks. Naruto rather harshly rejected them. He may have been 13, but he knew a liar when he saw one. On a lighter note, Naruto had gotten to know Anko Mitarashi. The two were very well acquainted by now. They were happily friends. After a few days, Naruto was introduced to her friends. To be more specific, they were Kurenai Yuhi, Yugogo Yuzuki, and Hana Inuzuka. When Hana told them he saved her life, Anko practically drowned the boy in thank you kisses for saving one of her best friends. Naruto also looked up the currently past genin teams. First was Team 10. The team consisted of Ino Yamanaka, Shikimura Nara, and Chuji Akamichi, with Asuma Sarutobi as a sensei. From what Naruto read, they were a capture and interrogation team. The Nara and Akamichi on the team would capture the target with their family jutsu, while the Yamanaka in the group would interrogate their enemy by using her family jutsu. From what he read, the Akamichi was a strong close combat fighter, and was easily angered if his weight was mentioned. He was also loyal to a fault, and could be counted on in a pinch. The Nara was a lazy boy who regularly took naps, spent his time staring at the clouds. The Yamanaka on the group was loud, bossy, and a fangirl. Fortunately, she seemed to be getting out of the phase more quickly than most. Team Guy, as it was called, consisted of Rock Lee, Tenten Higurashi, and Niji Hyuga with Might Guy as a sensei. The team was basically an assault squad. Lee was powerful in taijutsu since he had a medical condition that prevented him from molding chakra correctly. He made up for that in his speed and physical strength. Tenten was the team's long-range specialist, using a large variety of weapons. Unlike most girls, she wasn't a fangirl and actually took training seriously. The final member was Niji Hyuga. The boy was proficient in his juken fighting style. Sadly, he was stubborn and at times cruel, as he showed obvious disrespect for his fellow teammate Lee. Then there was Team 8, which consisted of Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburame, and Hinata Hyuga with Kurenai Yuhi as a sensei. The team was mainly used for scouting. The Hyuga would use her Byakugan, while the Aburame could track with his bugs, and the Inuzuka could track with his sense of smell. Kiba was an excellent fighter and had great loyalty toward his team like any Inuzuka. Unfortunately, he was brash and rarely thought before he acted. The Aburame was stoic and mostly kept to himself, but he was dependable in a fight. Hinata was basically a wallflower. She was shy, timid, and not very brave. It wasn't that she was weak, she was just timid. The potential was there, she just needed to have her confidence boosted. Finally, there was Team 7, consisting of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Ami Sanazoki under Kakashi Hatake. Now the team was supposed to be a frontal assault squad, with the Uchiha using his dojutsu, the Sharingan, and the two girls providing backup. Sadly, this was the worst team out there so far. The Uchiha had a blatant disregard for teamwork. He was obviously unstable after the murder of his clan years ago. He was Rookie of the Year only because of his need to show off. What made things worse was that the two girls on his team were fangirls. They fawned over Sasuke and did nothing to get better. In other words, the team was massacre waiting to happen. The only reason they passed was because the council was paranoid about the Uchiha being content, and the fangirls' parents were on the civilian council. In other words, Kakashi was forced to pass them. There was no way that this was going to backfire on them. At the moment, Naruto stood in the training grounds in the Sarutobi clan home. Across from him, bent over and panting in exhaustion, was Konohamaru Sarutobi, the Hokage's grandson. "Come on, Kono," Naruto said, "don't tell me you're tired from just a few exercises already?" Konohamaru turned to Naruto and yelled, "I'm not done yet, boss." The boy whipped out a kunai before running over to a tree and running up the side. He got a few steps when he slashed a mark and fell backwards exhausted. Naruto had taken it upon himself to train Konohamaru instead of him going through the academy. It kept him busy, and he saw it as a thank you to the old man for training him when he was younger. Besides, he was a vast improvement over the other Gyabisu. The guy spouted off that his training was the shortcut to becoming Hokage. At least he did, until Naruto slammed an earth-enhanced fist into his jaw. "That's enough for today, Kono," Naruto said. "If your grandpa found out that I worked you till your legs broke, he'd kill me." Konohamaru nodded and said, "Thanks, sensei." At that moment, an Anbu appeared and said, "Namikaze-san, the Hokage has asked for your presence immediately." Naruto nodded and vanished in a flash of lightning. "He has got to teach me that," Konohamaru panted as he saw his sensei vanish. Naruto reappeared in a flash of lightning. "You asked for me, Hokage-sama?" Naruto asked. The only time Naruto ever called the old man by honorifics was when he meant business. "Naruto," the old man said, "I'm sending you on an A-ranked mission to assist Team 7. Naruto raised an eyebrow and asked, "What do you mean an A-ranked mission? It is only a team of genin." The old man nodded and said, "It was supposed to be a C-rank mission." The mission was to protect Tazuna, a bridge builder, on his way home from highwaymen and other low-level threats. Unfortunately, the client lied about the real level of the mission, which was discovered when they were attacked by the Demon Brothers, two Chunin-level missing nin from Kiri. They are being assisted by someone much more powerful. I need you to go out and assist them. Also, you are charge of the mission if Kakashi is out of commission." Naruto nodded. The old man handed Naruto a scroll and the young jonin set out. Later, Kakashi growled as he faced off against his opponent. His opponent was none other than Zabuza Momochi, aka the Demon of the Bloody Mist. The silver-haired jonan was surrounded by a thick mist with his 3 students standing a little bit away with a formation around the client. I have to admit that you gave me a good fight, Kakashi, Zabuza said through the mist. But it all has to end sometime. Kakashi gasped as he saw Zabuza run at him through the mist. Kakashi dodged the strike just in time for a water clone of Zabuza to appear in front of him. Water style, water prison. The water around them started to converge and condense, forming a sphere around Kakashi. God, you know, Kakashi, Zabuza boasted, the water in this jutsu is stronger than steel. There's no way you can escape. The missing nin turned to where the rest of Kakashi's team and the client were hidden in the mist. Now then, time to kill those brats of yours and then the bridge builder. Then a new voice said, I think not, you eyebrowless freak. At that moment the water clones around Zabuza burst into water. The mist cleared slightly to reveal Naruto. Zabuza burst out laughing. Seriously? Zabuza laughed. They send another Gaki to save you guys? Naruto rolled his eyes and said, the ignorant are always the first to fall, buddy. Zabuza grinned under his mask and said, oh yeah? Why don't you go and prove that, squirt? Naruto grinned and said, I thought you would never ask. Naruto vanished from sight. Second later the sound of a vicious impact was heard. Zabuza was sent flying backwards with a bit of blood staining his mask. The swordsman crashed into the lake where he started to go underwater. What just happened? The man though as he sank. Naruto grabbed Kakashi as he started to fall. Easy there, comrade, Naruto said. Go to your genin team, I'll handle the overcompensating swordsman. Kakashi looked at Naruto before nodding. The silver-haired man then jumped over to his team. What's going on, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked as her sensei landed next to her. We just got some backup, Kakashi said, panting as he pulled his headband down over his Sharingan eye. Good thing too, because I was getting tired. Back in the fight, Zabuza rose back up from the water and clutched his jaw. He removed his mask and spat out a couple of sharp teeth. You little punk, the swordsman growled. You made me bleed. Naruto rolled his eyes and said, are you just going to stand there and talk, or are you going to fight? Zabuza put his mask back in place and roared, you bet I'm going to fight, Gaki. By the way, I heard that overcompensating remark. Zabuza charged at the blonde and swung his sword. The blonde stood still and was cut right through. Or at least he would have if the clone hadn't exploded in a burst of wind. Zabuza screamed in pain as he clutched his arm, which now had multiple cuts on it. What was that? Zabuza yelled. Trade secret, a voice said behind him. Zabuza spun around just in time to take an elbow to the other side of his face. The blonde jonan then started a vicious combo of knee strikes, elbow strikes, kicks and punches that, without a doubt, broke a few ribs and other bones in the missing nin. As Zabuza was knocked back, he started to sway a bit. Naruto's eyes flashed green as earth chakra focused into his hand. The blonde launched himself forward and roared, great impact. The fist connected with Zabuza's face. There was a loud crack and Zabuza's jaw was knocked to the side, signifying that it was knock off the hinges. Zabuza was sent flying and hit the ground with a loud boom. Naruto stood with his arms crossed and said, flawless victory. Brutality. The mist finally cleared and Team 7 looked on in shock at how someone their age just beat the living tar out of someone who gave their sensei trouble. Kakashi looked proud at the boy. Sasuke, however, looked jealous while his 2 loyal fangirls looked pissed at the boy for showing up their precious Sasuke-kun. Kakashi walked forward and said, I have to say I'm impressed. What would you expect, however, from Konoha's youngest jonan? Naruto nodded at the man and said, Kakashi, I am now assuming command of this mission due to your inability to make good decisions. Seriously, you let a bunch of genin go on an A-ranked mission? What is wrong with you? Kakashi shrugged and covered lamely by saying, lapse in judgment? Naruto rolled his eyes before walking over to the fallen Zabuza. He removed his sword, any ninja tools he had on him, and then tied him up in ninja wire. This guy's coming with us, Naruto said, picking the man up with ease. He should be able to tell us more about his employer. Naruto handed the sword to Kakashi and asked, you can carry this, right? The silver-haired man nodded. Naruto turned to Tazuna and asked, how far are we from your home? The bridge builder answered, not far. We should be able to make it in a half an hour or so. Naruto nodded before they started making their way to the bridge builder's home. As they walked, Sasuke was glaring at the back of Naruto's head. In the trees, a figure in a hunter nin outfit and a mask landed in a tree. The figure cursed itself at its poor timing and jumped back through the trees. Unknown to the figure, Kakashi and Naruto had sensed them. After about an hour of walking, the group arrived at Tazuna's house. Tsunami! Inari! Tazuna yelled, I'm home. A woman with long black hair entered the room and rushed over before hugging the man. Tsunami, Tazuna said, these are the ninja I hired to protect us, and that's a guy they caught. Guys, this is my lovely daughter Tsunami. Kakashi I smiled and said, it's nice to meet a pretty lady like you. Sakura smiled and said, hello. Ami smiled warmly. Sasuke simply gave his indifferent snort. Naruto said, hello? I hate to sound rude, but do you have a place where I can tie this guy up? Tsunami thought for a second and answered, we have a cellar. Naruto nodded and said, thank you. With that, Naruto went in the direction of the cellar to put away their captive. Now then, Tsunami said, I'm going to go start dinner. You guys must have worked up quite an appetite fighting. After Naruto had tied Zabuza to a sturdy beam and added some chakra suppression seals to him, he went back upstairs. Waiting for him expectantly was Sasuke Uchiha. Is there something that I can help you with, boy? Naruto asked. Yes, Sasuke said, I want you to teach me everything you know. Starting with that clone you used against Zabuza. Naruto raised an eyebrow and asked, Are you serious? The onyx-eyed boy nodded. Naruto shook his head and said, Sorry pal, but that isn't going to happen. Sasuke growled and said, Why not? Naruto glared at the rude boy and said, First of all, you need a chakra affinity for wind. Second of all, I don't have to teach you anything. Third, you try speaking that way to me again, Genin, and there will be trouble. Naruto walked past the now fuming boy who growled, I need that power. The council. Naruto immediately spun on his heel and growled, There is a huge difference between want and need, brat. Besides, I'm a ninja. The civilian council has no power over me, and the shinobi clans aren't very supportive of you. Now I suggest you shut your mouth and learn some manners. Naruto then walked away from the boy. I'll learn your secrets, Sasuke thought, even if I have to tear them from your corpse. About a half hour later, everyone sat at the table for dinner. They were joined by a young boy who was in the same brooding point of view as Sasuke. Oh great, another one, Naruto thought to himself. As they ate, Naruto noticed that the two girls on Team 7 were just eating bits and pieces. You mind telling me why you're eating like that? Naruto asked as he took a break from inhaling his fish. Ami answered, We're on a diet. Eating like that will just ruin our figures. Sakura nodded in agreement. No, it won't, Naruto answered, gaining confused looks from the two girls. Naruto explained, You see, by training you burn off calories and other factors that would cause a person to gain weight. I eat like this all the time and I still look fit. Basically, you've just been making things worse for yourself. The pair looked at each other and then at Kakashi, who was reading a little orange book, for confirmation. The silver-haired jonan nodded. The girls looked at each other before they started stuffing their faces full of food. Looks like they're on their way to becoming real ninja now, Kakashi whispered. We just broke the dieting part, Naruto said. Now we have to get through the Sasuke obsession. After the meal, the boy went upstairs without so much as a word. What's his problem? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. He lost his stepfather to Gato a few years back, Tazuna explained. He hasn't been the same since. Naruto looked to where the boy had gone. After a few more seconds, a cry of rage rang through the air. What's going on? Where am I? Naruto shook his head and said, I'd say Sleeping Beauty is up. The blonde rose up and said, I'm going to see if I can get some info out of the bonehead. With that, the blonde went downstairs to see the swordsman struggling in vain to try and get out of his binds. He looked up at Naruto and scowled angrily. You might want to give up now, Mr. No Eyebrows, Naruto said in a joking/serious tone. Zabuza glared at the boy and growled, I'm going to kill you when I get free, you little brat. Naruto looked at the man and said, big words coming from a man who's tied up and is unable to reach his chakra. The swordsman glared at Naruto. Now then, Naruto said, tell me about your employer. Zabuza growled, I'm not telling you squat. Naruto shook his head when he noticed something in Zabuza's eyes. Who are you protecting? Naruto asked. What? Zabuza asked with a raised non-existent eyebrow. Who are you protecting? Naruto repeated, other than your meal ticket. Zabuza looked at the boy before hanging his head. He was in no position to try and trick the kids, so he just gave up. My daughter Haku, Zabuza said. I know the little midget wouldn't dare touch her, but more than likely he'll try to send someone else to do it. Besides, this is the only way I can think of to keep us away from Hunter Nin. If they catch us, they'll either send us back to Kiri to have us executed, or worse, send me back while sending her to Oto or Kumo. Naruto nodded. He heard that some people in Kumo would do anything for a bloodline. He also heard that Oto was very shady when it came to them. He also understood Kiri because they were against bloodlines, period. Naruto thought for a minute. How about this? Naruto asked. In exchange for information and your help, you and your daughter can come with me to the Konoha and join my clan. Zabuza looked at the young jonin and asked, what's the catch? Naruto smirked and said, you have to teach a new generation of the 7 swordsmen in Konoha. Zabuza looked down and thought and answered, I'll think about it. Naruto grinned before truing around and walking back upstairs. Meanwhile, what do you mean he's been captured? Gato asked. I mean, the young hunter Nin said, Zabuza-sama has been captured by the Konoha Nin. Gato snarled and roared, get out. The hunter Nin left. You can't count on anyone these days, Gato said. Good thing you guys are my backup plan. 2 figures made themselves known behind the midget. I would kill to fight the yandame, one man said before throwing a copy of the bingo book down with a page that had Naruto's picture on it. But I'll settle for a Namikaze's runt. Naruto yawned as he rose up from bed. He put on his clothes and went downstairs. He was greeted with the sight of the 3 genin and their so-called jonin sensei. Ami and Sakura were eating a huge stack of pancakes while Sasuke was just finishing his meal. Okay, Naruto said, I'm taking some food down to our prisoner. If he's willing to cooperate, we will gain some very useful information. Naruto grabbed some food and went downstairs to Zabuza. Naruto placed the food down in front of him and asked, have you decided? The masked swordsman answered, I have, and I'm agreed to your terms. Anything to get Haku out of this damned life. Naruto grinned and said, what can you tell me about Gato's organization? Later, Naruto walked up from the basement. When he did, Team 7 looked at him expectantly. Well? Kakashi asked. He's agreed to help us, Naruto said. He's told me that Gato has a base a few miles east of here. Gato has a large army of mercenaries that are at his beck and call, so getting through to the man isn't going to be easy. Sasuke smirked and said, so what? They're just a bunch of mercenaries. We're ninja. We me on our side, we're bound to win. The girls were about to say something when Naruto said, there is also the chance that Gato hired more missing nin, some probably as strong or stronger than Zabuza. Sasuke's smirk was wiped off his face. The two kunoichi looked nervous now. Now then, Naruto said, according to Zabuza it will take him a week to get back to fighting strength. In that time I am going to train your butts off. So what has Kakashi taught you? Sakura answered, teamwork. Naruto raised an eyebrow and asked, what else? Ami said, that's it. Naruto turned to look at Kakashi and said, you are either one of the most idiotic, or the most lazy men I have ever seen. You haven't even started them on chakra control exercises. Kakashi shrugged and said, I didn't deem it necessary. Naruto picked Kakashi up by the front of his shirt and growled, you should have given them proper training before letting them go on a C rank. It is a miracle that they haven't been killed yet. I swear you are going to catch hell for this, you scarecrow. Naruto dropped Kakashi on his butt and created a pair of shadow clones. You, Naruto ordered the first clone, you are to guard this house with your life. Naruto turned to the second clone and said, you are to go to the bridge with Tazuna and guard him with your life. Am I understood you too? The clone saluted and said, sir, yes sir. Naruto turned to Team 7 and said, you guys are coming with me. We have a lot of training to do if you are even going to start being ready for the fight ahead. With that, the young jonin and 3 genin walked out of the house and toward the forest. As they walked, Sasuke asked, hey, what was that jutsu you used? Naruto turned back to him and answered, it was the shadow clone jutsu, an A-ranked kinjutsu that uses chakra to form a solid clone. Sasuke looked surprised and sighed, how is that kinjutsu? It's just like a regular clone. Naruto shook his head and said, I said solid clones, boy. The jutsu is a kinjutsu because it divides the chakra in them evenly through each clone. Basically it takes a lot of chakra just to form one. And in case you are going to ask, I'm not going to teach you. You'll need much more chakra to form just one than you do now. Sasuke crossed his arms and grumbled to himself as he was denied a jutsu. He was also upset that he, the rookie of the year, had basically been called weak. Finally the group arrived at their destination. Okay, Naruto said, for training today we'll start with the tree climbing exercise. Sakura said, you mentioned that earlier? What is it? Naruto explained, basically this exercise helps you learn how to effectively use chakra. Before you say anything, let me explain. When you use chakra in a jutsu, the amount of chakra control you have can make it much more powerful. Also, it decreases the amount of chakra wasted when you use a jutsu. Basically, chakra control is the one thing that can help a shinobi become stronger. The genin in front of him nodded. For this exercise, Naruto said, you are going to focus chakra into the soles of your feet and walk up the side of the trees in front of you. If you focus too little, you won't stick. If you focus too much, the bark will break. Mark your progress with a kunai. When all 3 of you are able to reach the top, we will continue. The 3 genin went at the trees and started climbing. After a few minutes, Ami and Sakura were at the top. Hey look, Sakura yelled, we made it. Naruto smiled and said, very good girls, but I want you two to keep going. Ami looked down at her temporary sensei and asked, why? Naruto answered, you two come from civilian families. As such, your chakra reserves are very low, giving you incredible control. Keep it up so you can build up your chakra reserves. If you feel tired, take a break. You won't be any good to us if you're suffering from chakra exhaustion. The 2 girls looked at each other tiredly before sighing and jumping down. With that, they ran up the tree again, as the girls were building their chakra reserves. Sasuke was having trouble running up the tree. Every time he tried to run up, his foot either wouldn't stick or crush the bark. Sasuke was growing more and more frustrated with each attempt, which only made his chakra control worse. Calm down, Uchiha, Naruto said. If you let your anger cloud your judgment, you won't even begin to get the training exercise down. Sasuke huffed and continued. Naruto sighed. This is going to be a long week, Naruto thought. Over the next 3 days, the same routine continued. Ami and Sakura had started to gain a small amount of muscle since they started training and eating right. Sasuke was still annoying and arrogant, but that was nothing that was new. After finally taking Naruto's advice to calm down, he managed to get control over the chakra exercise. Now Naruto stood in front of his temporary students and said, okay kids, I've got some different training for you today. Ami asked, is it another chakra exercise? Naruto thought for a second and said, maybe I'll get to that later. I've decided to trust you all with a different jutsu. Sakura asked, you're giving us jutsu? Naruto answered, yes, but only 1 each. I have a condition, however. I will also introduce the next stage in chakra control, water walking. Sakura looked confused and asked, water walking? Naruto nodded and said, yes. Water walking is the next step. You see, to walk on water is more difficult than walking on a tree. The water's surface is constantly changing from one height to another during a wave. For water walking to work, you must constantly adjust the amount of chakra in your feet to keep yourself afloat. Sasuke said, yeah, what about the jutsu? Naruto rolled his eyes and said, first need to learn your elemental affinity. Before I continue, can anybody tell me what that is? Sakura raised her hand and said, the elemental affinity is the element that a person's chakra is set to, which include fire, water, earth, wind, and lightning. A certain affinity can strengthen or weaken a jutsu used. A person can use jutsu other than that affinity, but at the cost of more chakra. Naruto clapped and said, "Very good, Ms. Haruno. There is more than that, however." Naruto took out 3 pieces of paper and said, "This is chakra paper. If you focus your chakra into heat paper, it will show you your elemental affinity by a different reaction it has. Fire burns it, earth turns it to dust, water makes it wet, wind cuts it, and lightning makes it wad up. Sasuke, you go first." Sasuke took the paper and focused his chakra into it. The paper burst into white-hot flames. Sasuke dropped the paper out of fear of being burned. "A fire affinity," Naruto observed, "and a powerful one at that. Okay, Ami, you next." Ami took a piece and focused. The paper started to wad up. "Lightning," Naruto observed. "Now your turn, Sakura." Sakura took her piece and focused her chakra, and the paper crumbled to dust. "Earth," Naruto said, "a very interesting group. Sasuke and Ami are the only affinities capable to offense alone. Sakura's can be used to attack and defend." Naruto took out 3 small scrolls. "Each of these are special jutsu that I've created," Naruto explained, handing 1 scroll to each Chunin. "Sasuke's jutsu is called Firebird Blast. It's basically a fireball that takes the shape of a bird. Ami's is called Storm Fist. This jutsu covers both hands and feet, become enveloped in lightning, allowing you to add an extra kick to your attacks. Sadly, it constantly drains a small amount of chakra, so you can only use it for a short amount of time. Finally, Sakura's is called Earth Shatter Dome. It forms a dome of rock around the user, and then it breaks apart, flying in the direction of the user's choosing, giving both defense and offense." The 3 grinned at the jutsu they were given. "Now then, I want you to try out the jutsu first," Naruto said. "If you start to feel faint during use, then stop immediately. Rest for a few minutes, and then start working on the water walking exercise. After that, try using the jutsu again." The 3 genin moved to different spots and tried their jutsu. Sasuke yelled, "Fire style, Firebird Blast." Sasuke fired a medium-sized bird from his mouth that met the surface of the lake and exploded with the force of an explosive tag. Sasuke smirked, but then felt tired. He wobbled a little bit and fell to one knee. "If I want to fully use this jutsu," Sasuke thought, "I have to gain more chakra." Ami went through hand signs and said, "Lightning style, Storm Fist." Lightning sparked around her hands and feet for a few seconds. She smiled happily, but then started to feel the effects on herself. She immediately cancelled the jutsu and fell to her knee panting. She may have upped her chakra reserves and control, but it wasn't enough. Sakura went through her hand signs and said, "Earth style, Earth Shatter Dome." A dome of earth rose up around her, and then quickly went shot off in different directions. Sakura panted at the exertion and rose up. The training continued like for the next few days. The young genin would continue to water walk and in certain cases fall through the water and come up sputtering. To say the least, it was funny for a while. By the end of the week, the 3 were able to do their jutsu without feeling exhausted. Or in Ami's case, she could do her jutsu for about 4 or 5 minutes before she started feeling the effects of the constant chakra drain. The only bad thing that came from it was Sasuke. After finally managing to get his jutsu down, he started ordering Naruto to make him more jutsu. When that didn't work, he demanded the notes on how to make a jutsu. That didn't get him anywhere either. At the end of the week, Kakashi and Zabuza were up and ready. In the basement of Tazuna's house, Naruto stood holding a large sanbato, or to be precise, Kubikiri Hocho. "Now then," Naruto said, "I'm trusting you. If I detect even the slightest hint that you are going to betray us, you'll be dead before you can bat an eyelash." Zabuza, knowing that this kid was serious, nodded. Naruto undid the seals and then unbound the former Kirinin. Zabuza rose up and rolled his shoulders, cracking them. Naruto was on guard. Zabuza held out his hand. Naruto gave the man his sword, who then proceeded to put it on his back. "Now then," Zabuza said, "I managed to learn that Gato's mansion is a few miles from the town. We can get there in about an hour's walk if those little shrimps of yours are up for the challenge." Naruto chuckled and said, "Those shrimps are stronger than they seem." Naruto got upstairs to see Kakashi and his team were ready to go. "Okay guys," Naruto said, "let's go. The sooner we get through with this mission, the sooner the kids get to go home and brag." With that in mind, the 6 ninja left the house and headed for Gato's mansion. After an hour of running, the ninja arrived at Gato's mansion. It was a huge, very expensive-looking place with a large wall and a few mercenary guards around the place. Multiple fires around the place revealed that there were a bunch of camps for the bandits and mercenaries that Gato had hired to help protect his cowardly little hide. Naruto observed the scene and said, "Okay, I got an idea. I'll make a clone and send it down to one of the camps. I'll go down to another and cause a diversion. In the pandemonium, you GYS go in and get Gato. Radio me if you run into trouble. Is that understood?" The group nodded. Naruto formed a shadow clone that went down to the other side of the mansion where the bandit camps were located. "He does know how to command, doesn't he?" Zabuza said. The group nodded. The 2 Narutos arrived down at the camps and prepared to strike. The original Naruto's eyes flashed red while the clone's eyes flashed brown. "I would like to thank Berry for the following jutsu. Real Naruto, Fire Style, Scorch Firebird. Naruto Clone, Earth Style, Gaia Quake." The original Naruto burst into flames and flew up, forming a massive bird that screeched, freaking out a lot of bandits. The bird then swooped downward, obliterating the camps in front of it, and turning all that were in them to ash. The Naruto clone brought up both hands and slammed them onto the ground, causing a huge quake. The ground beneath him rumbled, and then broke. The ground shattered beneath the bandit camp and they all fell screaming into the dark abyss below. The Naruto clone dispersed and Naruto smirked at the destruction in front of him. The other ninja felt their jaws hit the floor. That was the most incredible display of power that they had ever seen. Sasuke was making a mental note to copy his jutsu once he got his Sharingan. Back in the camp, Naruto looked to the right to see a bandit who was looking up at him in terror. He managed to avoid the blast as he was on the edge of one of the closest camps. The yondaime, he muttered in fear, "It's impossible, you're dead." Naruto answered in a serious tone, "I got better." The young jonan then took out a kunai and slammed it into the man's head. Meanwhile, the other ninja had run into Gato's main house. They encountered a lot of resistance from bandits. Sasuke was using his new fire jutsu to burn all the bandits in his path. He still had enough chakra after that to start throwing kunai and taking out the ones that were closer. He found a great thrill in killing these mercenaries. Yes, Sasuke will be crazy in this. Sakura was managing to keep the mercenaries attacking her away with a couple of well-placed kunai and shuriken. The killing made her feel sick, but she was managing through all the disgust. Ami was practically in the same boat as Sakura. Zabuza was decapitating one mercenary after another. Kakashi was using some of his weaker jutsu to save his chakra. After a few minutes of fighting, Naruto burst from the side and slammed an earth chakra-powered fist into the side of that mercenary's head. Naruto snarled as he went through hand signs and said, "Lightning style, lightning shot." The Whisker Jonin drew back his right arm and threw it forward, unleashed huge bolts of lightning that arced from one mercenary to the next. After a few seconds, the mercenaries were all dead. The smell of burning flesh almost made the newly minted genin vomit. In his mansion, Gato was sweating bullets. His entire army had just been decimated by a couple of ninjas. What were these guys, mutants? Demons? Whatever they were, they weren't going to stop until he was dead. Then calmed down when he remembered his backup plan. "I guess you guys are up," the fat midget said. "You better not betray me like that little rat, Zabuza." The two figures walked out of the office. Naruto and the group were making their way to Gato when two men stood out in front of him. One was a man with green hair wearing a rain headband on his head and had an umbrella on his back. He also had a black handle on his belt. The other was a massive, well-built man with a thick beard and mustache. He wore old jonan clothes and had a scratched-through IWA headband on his head. He also had a massive battle axe in his right hand. "Always," Zabuza said, "Marishi Sanazaki. I should have guessed you guys would be here." Ami, Sakura and Sasuke looked confused. "These guys are Aoi Rokusho and Marishi Sanazaki," Naruto explained, remembering them from the bingo book. Aoi is known for betraying Konoha to go to Rain and for stealing the Raijin, the blade of the Nidaime Hokage. Kaiza is a missing nin from IWA and is wanted for the murder of a great deal of his own comrades. Kaiza smirked and said, "So the mini yondaime knows his stuff. Well, then you should know that you don't stand a chance against us." Seeing something behind the large man, Naruto said, "I don't think that will be an issue." At that moment, a bunch of saban flew out of the shade and struck Aoi in the shoulders. The ones aimed at Kaiza were deflected by his axe. Naruto unsealed a pair of tonfa and got into a stance. Kakashi reacted quickly and charged at the stunned Aoi and stabbed him in the head with a kunai. Marishi snarled angrily as he charged at Naruto, intent on killing him. The young blonde dodged the massive axe and swung his tonfa and slammed it into the man's ribcage. The man grimaced and stepped backwards. The man growled and said, "Your old man cost us the war, you little brat. I plan on making the man pay through your corpse." Naruto rolled his eyes and said, "You'll have to get to me first, Gramps." Marishi snarled and swung his axe again in a horizontal arc. The young Namikaze ducked under the massive blade and shot out an earth chakra-powered kick that cracked his ribs. Marishi cried out, but was silenced when Naruto slammed his tonfa into his jaw, breaking the bone. The now silenced man backed away, dropping his axe and clutching his face. Naruto then grabbed the axe and, after shifting chakra into his arms, jumped upward and swung it cleanly, separating the missing nin's head from his shoulders. Naruto caught the head and sealed it away in a storage scroll. The blonde then walked over to Aoi's dead body and then took his head off before sealing it in a scroll as well. "What are you doing?" Sakura asked, confused about his actions. "These guys have bounties on their heads for being missing nin," Naruto explained. "If you turn in something that says you defeated them, such as their head, or a weapon that only they use, then you can gain the bounty." Sakura nodded in understanding. It was still disgusting to her, but she understood. "Zabuza," Haku yelled as she embraced her father figure. Zabuza hugged her back and said, "Haku, we're going with them. It's better than running around getting chased by Hunter nin." Haku looked shocked at her father figure, but understood all the same. With the tender moment over, the group of ninja burst into Gato's office. Naruto waddled over to the desk and looked around. He heard a slight whimpering noise and felt disgust run through him. He lifted up the desk and threw it to the side. Under it was Gato, who looked really scared. "Please don't kill me," Gato whimpered. "I'll give you anything you want." Naruto rubbed his chin and thought, "Give me your account number." Gato looked nervous and he shakily wrote down a number on a piece of paper. He handed it to Naruto. "Thanks," Naruto said before he slammed his fist into Gato's face, knocking him out cold. Naruto then wrapped the man in ninja wire before hefting the man over his shoulder. "What are you going to do with him?" Zabuza asked as they left. "I think it's about time that the people of Wave got their payback for what this little maggot has done to them over the years," Naruto explained. The following morning the people of Wave were surprised to find Gato tied to a post with the words payback time written on him. The shock turned to anger as they approached the man. The screams of a tortured and dying man filled the early morning. At least for most of them. The kids were sent home with earplugs. The rest of the mission went pretty well after everyone cleaned up what was left of Gato was cleaned up. After the bandit lord had died, the bridge work continued unopposed and was done much faster since some of the workers who quit while Gato was in charge came back. While this was going on, Sasuke had started showing his more arrogant side again. He started telling Naruto to make him more jutsu. He also started demanding Zabuza to teach him his jutsu and sword techniques as well as ordering him to hand over Kubikura Bocho. He even started demanding the same from Haku. Just when they were at their wits' end, Naruto saved the Uchiha from a slow and brutal demise by slamming a very powerful piece of duct tape over his mouth. Naruto also presented Gato's bank information to Tazuna, giving back all the money that Gato had taken from them. When it came time to leave, Naruto was almost attacked by his fan club that had built up around the village. Luckily, Kakashi took things seriously enough for them to leave before Naruto wound up losing his pants. Without the civilian with them, they were able to get to Konoha much faster. When they arrived, the gates, Izumo and Kotetsu immediately drew their weapons. "Calm down, guys," Naruto said, "they're with us. They are coming with us as prisoners on our last mission with the hopes that they can join us." The two Chunin looked at each other before relenting. "Zabuza, Momochi, and girl I can't identify," Izumo said. "I would ask that you hand over your weapons." Zabuza raised a non-existent eyebrow and asked, "Why?" Kotetsu answered, "Sorry, it's just a necessary precaution. I don't think a lot of the shinobi would like a missing nin walking through the village with a large sword on his shoulder." Zabuza sighed and handed over his sword. Kao took out her saban pack and handed them to the Chunin. With that, the sixth ninja headed into the village. When they arrived at the Hokage's office, the old man sent them a stern glare. "Okay," the old Kage said, "can somebody tell me why we have two non-Konoha ninja in the room, one of which being a missing nin?" Naruto cleared his throat and said, "Zabuza Momochi and his daughter Haku Momochi helped us fulfill our mission to help the bridge builder Tazuna by telling us where their boss was hiding out. In return, they wished for protection and are willing to join the ranks of Konoha." The old Sandaime looked at the two foreign ninja before he sighed and said, "All right. I will let them stay. However, they will have their weapons confiscated, their chakra temporarily sealed, and be under ANBU watch for a period of up to 3 months. Understood?" Zabuza nodded. He was a little pissed that he wouldn't get his sword back and have his chakra sealed, but he would get over it with time. Haku was just glad that she wasn't going to be sent to jail. "ANBU," the old man said as the masked agents appeared, "show these two to some temporary housing. Then spread the news to the other ANBU." With that, the demon of the mist and ice user were escorted away. When they were gone, the old Kage turned his eyes to the son of Konoha's white fang. "Now then, Kakashi," the Sandaime said, "tell me why you went along with the mission when it turned B rank instead of handing it over to another jonin or calling ANBU." Kakashi cleared his throat and said, "Well, after the fight with the demon brothers, each of my genin put in their 2 cents about continuing on with the mission. They all agreed to go, so we did." The Sandaime looked at Kakashi with an unreadable expression before he yelled, "What were you thinking?" Everyone winced at the tone. "You let 3 behind the ears genin, 2 of which were fangirls and the other being arrogant and prideful, decide on whether or not to continue with the B-ranked mission? Kakashi, that is by far one of the most ridiculous things I have ever heard." The Sandaime caught his breath and calmed himself down a bit. "Kakashi," the Sandaime said, "I'm afraid I'm going to have to take action. Your choice to take care of the situation could have gotten some or all of your genin killed if I hadn't sent back up in time. For your lack of judgment, you are hereby suspended from your jonin instructor position and given the regular jonin rank. For the next 3 weeks you are to do solely 30 capture Tora missions with half the pay. You will only resume your teaching duties when I say so. Understood?" Kakashi hung his head and nodded sadly, knowing that his lack of judgment had in fact endangered his team. "Team 7 is now excused. You will report to your normal training grounds to meet your temporary sensei," the Sandaime said. "Naruto, stay. I need to have a word with you." Team 7 left the office while Naruto stood there. "Now then," the old man said, "I would like to know what is your evaluation of Team 7? Naruto sighed and said, "Well, Sasuke has the typical Uchiha pride and arrogance. After the mission was over, I started demanding I teach him more jutsu as well as the stuff that Haku knew. The only fortunate thing that came out of this was that Ami and Sakura have started to break their fangirl tendencies. During training I learned they hadn't gone through the tree walking exercise yet, and I got them up to water walking." The Sandaime sighed at one of his Tajonin's laziness. He was starting to wonder if the boy had been born of a Nara instead of a Hatake. "Naruto," the old Kage said, "I have a proposition for you." The next day, Ami, Sakura and Sasuke were approaching training ground 7. The 3 had been preparing all night for when they would meet their new sensei. When the 3 genin approached their training ground, they were surprised to see Naruto sitting on top of the middle stump that had been used during the bell test when they first started became genin. "Naruto," Sakura said in shock, "you're going to be our temporary sensei?" The sun-kissed blonde nodded and said, "Now then, are we all ready to begin training?" The 3 genin nodded. "Okay," Naruto said, "to start things off I want to see how far you all are with the water walking exercise and how far you are coming with the jutsu I gave you." Sakura stepped up first and said, "I can go on with the water walking exercise for about 10 minutes before I fall through the surface. And I'm able to perform my earth jutsu without feeling as drained as I normally do, but I still eats up a lot. Ami stepped up and said I can go for about 8 minutes on the water before I break through, and I can get at least 10 minutes with my new jutsu. Sasuke said I'm able to use my new jutsu as well as the Phoenix Flow jutsu before I start to feel the effects of chakra drain. Naruto was writing this all down on a notepad and said I have to say I'm impressed with how far you've come with the right training. However, higher level ninja can use jutsu like Ami for about a half hour or longer. Sakura walked up to Naruto and said, Naruto-sensei? I was wondering, I noticed that during the mission that you used Tonfa against that IWA Nin, and you used a sword in the exam against that jonan in your exam. Do you use more than one weapon? Naruto nodded and said, very perceptive Sakura. I have learned to use more than one weapon because it helps me keep my enemies on my toes. They won't know if I'm going to use a sword or another weapon. Sakura thought for a second and asked, can you teach me how to use Tonfa? Naruto cocked his head to the side and asked, do you all want to learn how to use a weapon? The three nodded. Okay, Naruto said, we'll go get weapons tomorrow. For now we work on chakra reserves and something else to work on. Naruto took out 3 pairs of scrolls. Sakura, Naruto said, do you know what elemental manipulation is? Sakura nodded and said, yeah. Elemental manipulation is the controlling of an element, though chakra control. Naruto nodded and said, yes. Now a different chakra has a different effect on the air around it. Fire chakra burns whatever it touches. Lightning chakra is able to pierce though a target. Wind chakra is able to cut through whatever it touches. Earth is able to smash whatever it strikes to pieces. Water chakra is usually able to apply incredible pressure to a target. These scrolls have fire, earth, and lighting chakra training exercises. You are to do these all day until the sun goes down. When your chakra levels are low, rest until you feel them return to normal. If you get hungry, take a lunch break, but only for an hour. If I find out any of you have slacked off, you are going to be running laps until your ankles break. Understood? The tone that the blonde used made absolutely no room for argument. They all nodded in understanding. Now get to work, Naruto said. I have some business to attend to. With that, Naruto left his temporary team to their own devices. Sakura's training exercises were basically just focusing chakra into her body parts and unleashing them at the right moments to shatter a target. This was pretty difficult even with her chakra control. She wound up with a lot of bloody knuckles. By lunch, however, she was able to put a crack in the wooden post that was her target. By the time she was ready to leave, she could form at least 3 cracks in the wood. Ami's training exercises were focusing her chakra into her fingers and piercing a target. It started off rough since she couldn't focus it right. By lunch, she could at least form some small finger-shaped dents in the wood. It wasn't enough to pierce through the skin deep enough to puncture an organ, however. She also had to focus chakra into her hands to keep the lighting chakra from cooking her skin. Sasuke's training exercises included focusing chakra into his hands and feet and turning an object he was touching into ash. It started with grass and leaves and I would eventually go into melting metals. He also had to focus protective chakra into his hands and feet to keep them from burning. Luckily for him, he was only focusing enough chakra to give him a first-degree burn. After a lot of failed attempts, some chakra regaining breaks, and some injured hands, the 3 left the training ground for lunch. The 3 found themselves sharing a meal at the Akamichi barbecue joint because it had good food and it was all you can eat. Which was a good thing because they were starving. The 3 were in the middle of eating Ino, Chuji, Shikamaru, and Asuma. Hey forehead, Ino Yamanaka said, bird woman, Sasuke-kun. What are you doing here? Sakura gulped down some of her food before saying, lunch break from training. Our sensei if a slave driver of a man. Asuma, Team 10 sensei, raised an eyebrow and asked, Kakashi? The man if a minimalist? I don't see him as a slave driver. Ami gulped down her bite of steak before she clarified, not Kakashi. Naruto Uzumaki. He's our sensei now. Asuma cocked his head to the side and asked, what happened to Kakashi? Sasuke answered, he made some poor decisions that put us in danger on our last mission. He was suspended from his teaching duties. Naruto is our temporary sensei. We've only had him for a few weeks, and he's already taught us more than Kakashi has in the month he had us. Ino looked surprised as he saw Sakura and Ami eating so much food. Why are you eating like that, forehead girl? Ino said, Sasuke-kun isn't going to want you anymore if you lose your figure. Sakura swallowed down a mouthful of rice and said, eating isn't really a training issue, Ino pig. If you train hard, the extra calories and the extra fat turns into muscle fat. In other words, starving yourself is only going to kill you. Ino looked shocked before turning to Asuma for confirmation. The bearded Sarutobi nodded. The 3 finished and paid for their meal. After that, the 3 went back to their training grounds. As soon as the 3 got back, they split up and started training again. As the sun started to set, they got up and started to head home to rest for tomorrow. As soon as they left, the 2 rocks and a tree burst into smoke, revealing 3 Narutos. The 3 blondes then burst into smoke. Meanwhile, at the Sarutobi complex, Naruto's eyes went blank for a minute before he came back to the real world with a smirk. Naruto-sensei, Konohamaru said, seeing Hi-sensei smirk, are you okay? Naruto answered, yeah. Just had a very happy thought. The next day, Team 7 approached their training ground. As soon as they did, they saw Naruto waiting for them. They were actually happy to see that their sensei was on time. Okay, Naruto said, like I said yesterday, we will be looking for weapons. While we are there, we are going to search. I don't want you to pick what looks like it would be effective. I want you to pick what feels right. Am I understood? The three nodded. Good. The four then went off. Naruto led the three genin to a shop with the name Higurashi Weapons on it. When the three genin entered the shop, their eyes widened. There were weapons all over the place. Swords, staff, axes, bows, knives, maces, tonfa, and a whole lot of other weapons. Now, Naruto said, you three can browse, but only pick what feels right. If the weapon doesn't fit, don't buy it. Now go find your new toys. The three genin then browsed through the entire store. It was hard for them to decide what to choose since there were so many. Sasuke eventually picked a black and silver naginata. Sakura picked up a pair of black painted nunchaku. Ami picked a bow quiver of arrows. While there, they also stocked up on kunai, shuriken, explosive tags, flash bombs, and ninja wire. The three gathered up their supplies and Naruto rung the bell to summon a worker. An old man that was built like an ox with multiple battle scars and an eye patch came to the desk. Naruto, the old man said, I haven't seen you here since you bought your first weapons. Naruto nodded and said, good, you see you too, Katsu. Now then, I'll be taking these. The man grinned as he rung up the price. Anything else? The man asked. Naruto rubbed his chin in thought and said, yeah. I'll take a book on making poisons and medical creams from available plants, a book on medical jutsu, a scroll with katas for these weapons, and a book on trap making. The man grabbed the stuff asked for and handed them to Naruto. The blonde Namikes paid for the items, and then they left for the training ground. Okay then, Naruto said as he facing his temporary students, from now until lunch you will train in chakra control and elemental control. After lunch you will study the katas for the weapons you picked out. Sakura, I want you to train in medical jutsu and poisons and medicine. Ami, you are to practice in trap making. Sasuke growled, why do they get extra training when I do not? Naruto glared at Sasuke and said, we need to diversify the team. We need a teammate with medical training. She can heal her allies if they are injured. For Ami, she can help trap and bind an enemy for those capture missions. You, Sasuke, will be the team's heavy hitter. When Ami has trapped the target, you will be the one to wipe her out. You can also defend Sakura while she's healing Ami or another ally. Sasuke nodded in understanding. It continued like this for the next few weeks. Naruto would train the three into the ground-pounding skills into their skulls piece by piece. Their chakra reserves eventually came up to about Chunin level. They also became proficient in their weapons and jutsu. In the present day, Naruto stood in front of the new Team 7. Some time ago, the team decided to get some new clothes. Sakura now wore a red shirt with a white tiger on the back and a pair of fingerless gloves on her hands. She also wore a pair of black shorts with pockets that held poisons on the left and medical creams on the right. She always made sure to make sure they were in the right pocket too. She also had on a pair of black sandals. On her waist she had a pair of sheaths made for her nunchaku. Ami had on a black shirt with a fire symbol in red on the back. She also had on a pair of dark gray pants, and dark blue also had on a pair of gloves with special points on the nails that helped her focus her lightning chakra. On her back was her bow and a quiver full of arrows. Sasuke was basically wearing all black with special fireproof gloves and bandages on his hands and legs. He also had the Uchiha symbol moved to his shirt sleeve. Sasuke had his naginata mounted on his back. I'm glad to see you all improved so quickly over a few weeks, Naruto said. I'm proud to have called you my students at the time. Naruto looked at the proud looks of his students, and the slightly smug look on Sasuke's face. Now, Naruto said, before we start training today, I intend to make a new jutsu for each of you. Sasuke smirked and said, what are they? Naruto looked at the Uchiha and said, I don't know yet. This time you're going to tell me what you want. Naruto took out a pad and a pencil. You'll be first, Sasuke, Naruto said. Would you prefer a ninjutsu, kenjutsu, taijutsu, or genjutsu? Sasuke thought for a second and said, ninjutsu. Naruto asked, would you like it to hit one or multiple targets? Sasuke answered, multiple targets. Naruto jotted down a few notes. What would you like the range to be? Sasuke actually put thought into this and answered, mid to long range. Naruto then asked, do you want it to take an animal form? Sasuke thought for a second and answered, no. Naruto wrote that down and asked, do you want to be a single blast like the Grand Fireball Jutsu or multiple like the Phoenix Flower Jutsu? Sasuke immediately answered, multiple blasts. Naruto wrote down the notes and motioned for Sakura. I'd like ninjutsu that is close to mid-range, single blast, single shot, and no animal form. I'd like it to be a follow-up technique to my Earth Shatter Dome, Sakura said. Naruto turned to Ami who said, I'll take a ninjutsu, multiple blast, no animal form. Question though. Can I have mine be able to switch between one target and multiple targets? Naruto scratched his chin in thought thinking about that request. I think I can manage that, Naruto said. You guys train. I'll come by later with your jutsu. The three genin left and got to training for the day. After about an hour of training, a cry of Eureka! The three were shaken from their training by the cry. The three ninja turned to see Naruto running through the training ground and landed in front of them. What was that all about, Naruto-sensei? Sakura asked with a slightly annoyed look. I had some trouble going through the jutsu that Ami requested, and I finally managed to figure it out, Naruto explained. Let me show you, Naruto said. The man quickly went through hand signs, lightning style, feathers of the thunderbird, electricity focused in his hands. He pushed on hand out, sending lightning in the shapes of feathers. The projectiles pierced the tree and went right through. He then swung his arm in a horizontal arc, sending them outward in an arc, piercing and going through the ground in a few trees. Ami sat back in awe. Naruto handed her a piece of paper that had the mechanics behind the jutsu. This is yours, Sakura, Naruto said as he went through more hand signs, earth style, stone spears assault. Naruto slammed his fist onto the ground, and a few large rocks came up from the ground. The rocks sharpened and flew at a tree, smashing it to pieces. Whoa, Sakura said in shock. Naruto looked at the pinkette and said, consider that a follow-up to your Earth Shatter Dome technique. It'll use the already unearthed rocks and save you a bit of chakra while extra chakra is used to bring the rocks out. Naruto handed the notes on the jutsu to her. Naruto finally turned to Sasuke and said, here's your jutsu, little Uchiha. Sasuke scowled at the nickname, while Naruto went through one final set of hand signs. Fire style, burning archer. Naruto fired half a dozen flaming arrows from his mouth. The projectiles pierced the ground and rocks, setting fire to the grass and wood and destroying a tree. Sasuke smirked as he took the paper with jutsu notes from his temporary sensei. Now then, Naruto said, practice with these. I'll be taking care of my own training. Sakura looked confused and said, you're already a jonin? Why do you keep training? Naruto answered, yes, but I don't want my skills to diminish and weaken. I train to keep my skills sharp and to grow stronger myself. So keep at it. Naruto then left to go train while leaving his temporary students to their own devices. While Ami and Sakura walked away to start their own training, Sasuke discreetly followed Naruto. The young genin hid quietly behind a few bushes as he watched his temporary sensei practice. After running through a few katas, Naruto stood facing a training post. Sasuke smirked. Unknown to Naruto, the intense training had caused Sasuke to activate his Sharingan. He had been waiting to use it, and now he had a chance. Naruto flipped through a few hand signs and growled, wind style, jet stream blast. Naruto fired a single powerful blast of air chakra from his mouth that reduced the wooden training post to nothing but splinters. Sasuke gave a dark smirk as he turned off his Sharingan. He then went to his own spot in the training ground and turned to the training post. The young Uchiha went through hand signs and said, wind style, jet stream blast. The beam of air smashed into the training post and turned it to splinters. Sasuke would have smirked if he hadn't suddenly fallen to one knee in absolute exhaustion. Even with his enhanced reserves, the jutsu was too much for him to bear. He slowly rose up from his exhausted spot on the ground and thought, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, how powerful are you? After failing at copying Naruto's jutsu, Sasuke rested to get his chakra reserves back up. When Sasuke and his fellow genin left the field, he noticed that Naruto was giving him a piercing gaze. The young Uchiha felt a little nervous when Naruto looked at him like that, but he just put it off as a weird Naruto thing. It was dark again and the moon was shrouded with clouds as Sasuke made his way to the Uchiha complex. Naruto looked up at the moon and sighed. Sometimes I really hate that sensei of ours, he thought. Mayo. While Naruto sneezed, Sasuke continued to make his way to the Uchiha clan complex when he heard what sounded like footsteps behind him. He turned around and the noise stopped. Sasuke looked a little nervous now and started to walk. He heard the sounds of footsteps again. This time there were them. He stopped and spun around to see nobody. The young Uchiha looked around frantically before he started walking again. A sudden noise got the young Uchiha's attention. He spun towards the sound only to see that the culprit was a stray cat that had knocked over a trash can in search of a meal. Sasuke shook his head and thought, you're hearing things, Sasuke. All the training from today tired you out, and you're hallucinating. With this mind now much calmer than before, the boy started walking home. He walked, the noise hit his ears again. He stopped walking and sniffed the air. A familiar scent hit his nose. Perfume, Sasuke thought. This time, instead of turning around, he increased his running speed. The footsteps increased their speed as well. Soon the Uchiha heir was sprinting down the road. Sasuke soon heard what sounded like a stampede behind him. Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back, Sasuke ranted over and over again in his head while running. The boy then made the unwise choice of actually looking behind him. The sight was enough to make his blood run cold with fear. Behind him were a bunch of fangirls. They had their nails/claws poised to strike with foam and drool coming out of their mouths and insane looks in their eyes. Sasuke poured what chakra he had left into his legs and increased his speed, leaving a trail of flaming footsteps as he ran. The fangirls did the same. After a few minutes of running, however, the girls' chakra reserves began to weaken and they all collapsed in a heap. Sasuke smirked in victory as he ran. He then spun around a corner and found himself at the Uchiha gates. The duck-haired boy walked through the gates of the Uchiha complex and let out a long sigh of relief. He made his way to the main house for some food and then off to bed. As soon as he entered the living room of the main house, he felt a familiar presence. Sasuke snarled before he pulled out his naginata and said, "Okay, you fangirls. Come out and face me." A chuckle reached his ears and a voice said, "Sasuke, what makes you think I'm a fan?" The lights came on, temporarily blinding Sasuke. When his vision cleared, Sasuke was shocked to see the Sandaime, Naruto, and two A and BU standing in his living room. "What are you doing in my house?" Sasuke asked, a little confused and a tad bit nervous. I don't know, Naruto said, crossing his arms. What do you think you're doing stealing one of my jutsu? Sasuke's heartbeat went up when he heard that. What are you talking about? Sasuke lied, hoping it would convince them. Please, Sasuke, Naruto said, I'm a jonin for a reason. You think I wouldn't have been able to sense the suppressed chakra of a mere genin? Sasuke looked at Naruto and asked, how did you know I copied that? For all you know, I could have been watching your training method. Naruto simply smirked and sighed. You want to know a funny thing about shadow clones? When one disperses, they are able to send their memories back to the original. All I had to do was distribute a few around the training ground. Watch your progress. Sasuke looked really nervous now. Sasuke Uchiha, the Sandaime, said, you have been suspected and found guilty of stealing a clan technique from the Uzumaki/Namikaze clan. For this you are to have your Sharingan sealed away until further notice. Sasuke yelled out, what? You can't do this to me. The village needs my bloodline. As Sasuke yelled the last word, the two Naruto remembered the conversation he had with the Sandaime before this. Flashback. Naruto, the Sandaime said as Team 7 left, I have a proposition for you. Naruto looked at the old man and asked, what is it, Hokage-sama? Sarutobi said, I want you to be the temporary sensei of Team 7. Naruto looked at the old man with a shocked look on his face and sighed. Are you crazy, man? Sasuke practically demanded I give him my techniques every time he had the chance. Why do you want me to help him? The old man waited until Naruto was finished before saying, allow me to explain. We both know that Sasuke, much like the other Uchiha, is incredibly arrogant. I have been going over his files and it seems like he isn't mentally sound like the civilian council wants to be believed. You see, I want you to train him to keep an eye on him. I believe with your training method Sasuke would unlock his Sharingan. Should that happen, Sasuke may get on a jutsu stealing spree. The last thing we need is a boy like that with the excellent techniques of all the clans. When Sasuke's Sharingan awakens, I want you to perform one of your non-bloodline related jutsu. Should he copy it, report to me immediately. Naruto was quiet for a second and said, so you want me to out a potential danger to our village? Hiruzen nodded. Naruto sighed and said, I guess I don't have a choice. The Sandaime nodded happily and said, oh, and Naruto use one of the weaker jutsu. The last thing we need is for Sasuke to die from chakra depletion. The paperwork would be horrible. End flashback. Naruto. The blonde was brought out of his thoughts when the Sandaime bopped the boy on the head. Sorry, Naruto said, I was having a bit of a flashback. My bad. Hiruzen looked at Naruto strangely for a second before saying, if you have one of those again, here is the num for Yoshino Nara. I hear she is a very good therapist. The ANBU finished applying the seal to the back of the Uchiha's neck and let him drop to the floor. Sasuke looked up and glared at Naruto, but then fell down to ground in a heap. With that, the four ninja left Uchiha on the floor of his complex. While leaving, Naruto sensed a few chakra signatures before he left, so he locked the door behind him. He also made a few shadow clones that locked the windows and guarded every possible entrance and exit, including the chimney and the sewer grate. The next few days were different for Team 7. Sasuke would always glare at Naruto whenever he showed up for training. Sakura and Ami didn't know what was going on between the two, but they decided not to get involved. Sasuke would try to get Naruto to unseal his bloodline only to get bashed over the head. After a WHI9 loss, Sasuke just stopped trying. The young Uchiha figured that if he could prove his strength, then he would get his bloodline back. The three were surprised that Naruto had decided to end the training early one day. Listen up, you three, Naruto said. As you may not know, the Chunin exams are coming up soon. Since most of you have done pretty well so far, I've decided to enroll you. However, know that the Chunin exams are more than just a test. They show the skills of the village to future potential clients, and shows the strength of the village as a whole. If you embarrass us, even the Shinigami won't be able to save you from my wrath. Naruto added wind chakra to his vocal cord, making a huge gust when he yelled that nearly blew the three genin off of their feet. Now then, Naruto said, taking out some papers, I'll need you all to sign these to show that you're all willing to participate. The exams are being held in 3 days. Until then, I'm going to work on your physical conditions. And boy did he. Naruto had the 3 genin run laps around the training grounds with weights tied to their ankles and wrists. The training was excruciating, but in the 3 genin knew that it was going to be worth it in the end. They did, however, make a mental note to buy plenty of painkillers. Naruto smirked at the sight of his genin training. At the end of the day, Naruto was heading back to the Sarutobi complex when he heard shouting, "Let go of me, you cross-dressing freak!" A young voice yelled that Naruto immediately recognized as Konohamaru. "Who are you calling a cross-dressing freak, you little brat?" Came a second voice that Naruto didn't recognize. The young jonin walked around the corner to find Konohamaru in the grip of a boy wearing what looked like a black cat suit with a large package on his back and wearing makeup. With him was a young woman with blonde hair done up in multiple tails, wearing a white battle dress and holding a large battle fan. Both of them had headbands that had sand jars on them, signifying their allegiance to Suna. "Come on, Kankuro," the girl said, "just drop the kid. We need to meet Baki-sensei." The now identified Kankuro replied, "Ease up, Tamari. I'm just going to teach this little runt some manners is all." Naruto then made his presence known and said, "You know, I really hate to see such talent wasted." The pair of Suna genin turned to Naruto. Temari thought, "Looks like the local cutie just arrived." Kankuro asked, "What are you talking about?" Naruto said, I mean I hate to see a ninja waste his time picking on a little kid who hasn't even gotten out of the academy yet. Kankuro smirked and said, okay, so why don't I just hurt you instead? Kankuro dropped Konohamaru. As soon as he did, Kankuro felt an intense pain in his stomach. He was doubled over by an incredibly strong punch to the stomach and then thrown into the air and crashed unceremoniously down on his shoulder. Kankuro's face was a mix of shock and pain. Temari just looked shocked. I didn't even see this guy move, Temari thought in shock. Kankuro spat in the dirt and growled. Who the hell are you supposed to be? Naruto looked at Kankuro with a raised eyebrow and said, isn't it common courtesy to give your name first? Kankuro snarled and was about to yell when a low voice said, what are you doing? Kankuro froze and instantly turned pale, as did Temari. The three genin and Konohamaru looked up to see another Suna genin. This one had short red hair, black paint around his blue eyes to make them resemble a raccoon, mostly black and brown clothing with a white sash, a large gourd on his back, and the kanji for love tattooed over one eye. Gaara, Kankuro stuttered, this isn't what it looks like. This guy. Gaara cut off Kankuro with a dark glare. Shut up, Gaara said, or I'll kill you. Kankuro gulped and said, yes, Gaara. Gaara glared at Kankuro before turning to Naruto and said, forgive my brother's stupidity. Come on, you two. We're late for our meeting with Baki-sensei. As the three turned to leave, Naruto said, hold on a minute. What's your name? Temari looked at the boy and asked, me? Naruto shook his head and answered, sorry, I mean the one with the gourd. Gaara turned to Naruto and said, Sabaku no Gaara. You are? Naruto crossed his arms and said, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. As soon as the sun-kissed blonde's name reached their ears, Temari and Kankuro instantly got nervous. They had read about the guy in the bingo book, and they knew that if they ever got on his bad side they were screwed. You interest me, Namikaze, Gaara said. It will be interesting if we fight. Naruto nodded and said, let's hope that doesn't happen. With that, the three Suna genin walked away, leaving Naruto and Konohamaru. Boss, Konohamaru said, I think I might need to go home and change my pants. Naruto rolled his eyes at the boy and said, sure thing, kid. Now when we get home we have some very special training for you to do. 3 days later. The 3 days of physical training had been brutal for the three genin of Team 7. Naruto had bought them weights with special seals that adjusted whenever the user got used to them. The blonde sensei had the three running around for a while before letting them stop for a while, made them run again, then he had them work on their control. Now Team 7 stood outside the academy where the exams were being held. I never thought we would be back here, Sakura said. Let's stand in a moment of respect for those of us who didn't pass the last test. All three genin stood in silence. Okay, done, Sakura said, let's go. The three made their way inside. As they climbed up the stairs they found themselves in a hall where a lot of genin were gathered around a door. Just leave now, the Chunin at the door said. We're doing you a favor by not letting you through. You rookies aren't ready for the exams. A girl in a Chinese shirt with buns in her hair said, come on, just let us through. We've got what it takes. Sakura nudged her teammates and whispered, guys, it's a genjutsu. We aren't on the right floor. If we play our cards just right we'll be able to cut down the completion before the game even starts. The two genin looked at their pink-haired teammate before nodding and heading up to the next floor. When they arrived they found Naruto waiting for them. Glad to see that you made it, Naruto said. I'm also glad to see that Sasuke didn't blow the little test at the beginning. Sasuke huffed in annoyance. Well, Naruto said, you'd better get in there. We don't want you to be late now, do we? Oh, and by the way, don't go showing off all your skills. Save some tricks for when you get to the final exam. The three genin nodded at their temporary sensei before they entered the room. When they arrived they got the shock of a lifetime. There were a great deal of genin in the room from all over the elemental nations. Suna, Aim, Kumo, Kusa, and a few others. There was one team that stuck out though. They wore a band that had what looked like a musical note on it. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke was suddenly grabbed and hugged by Ino Yamanaka. Ino pig, Sakura growled, get off Sasuke-kun now. Ino simply spat her tongue out at Sakura and said, oh Sasuke-kun, I missed you so much. It must have been torture dealing with these idiots. Shikamaru approached the group and said, how troublesome, Ino. Shuji simply munched on some chips. Well, what do we have here? Said the voice of Kiba Inuzuka. It looks like the rookies are all together again. Shino nodded and Hinata simply shrugged. You guys shouldn't be so loud, said a new voice. The entire group turned to see a genin with a Konoha headband, silver hair, and glasses. Who are you supposed to be? Kiba asked. My name is Kabuto Yakushi, the boy said. You really need to not draw so much attention to yourselves. It'll just make you a bigger target. Shino stepped up and said, you sound so sure. You speak with experience. How many times have you taken this exam? Kabuto answered, I've taken this exam 6 times before. You can call me a veteran. Kiba smirked and said, you must suck then. Kabuto rolled his eyes and said, anyway, I have information. Is there anyone you'd like to know about? The genin all looked at each other for a second and thought, I want info on them, Sasuke said, pointing to the team with the musical note on their headbands. Kabuto took out 3 cards and focused chakra into them. There was a light puff of smoke. Kabuto read the card and said, there isn't much info on these guys. They're relatively new to the exam and so is their village, the Hidden Sound. Since it was just recently founded I don't have any information on them. Sorry. At that moment there was a large burst of smoke. When it cleared, it showed a man with a black trench coat and a bandana on his head sporting the Konoha symbol on it. "Listen up, you maggots," the man said. "I'm Ibiki Marino and I'm the proctor for the first exam. Now get in the next room to start the first exam." All the genin filed into the room. The Chunin exams had finally begun. The first exam went rather quickly. All the genin present had to take a written test. If they got a failing grade, not only were they forbidden from continuing, but the rest of the team couldn't continue either. They were also informed that if one member of the team was caught cheating, the entire team was dismissed. They had at least 2 hours to finish the test. Even though it was against the rule, all the genin had to cheat one way or another. Sakura didn't have to cheat because she had actually studied. Sasuke managed to get glances at the answers from the guy sitting next to him. Ami studied as well, so she didn't have any need to cheat. Tenten used a series of mirrors guided by nearly invisible ninja wire to send the answers to her teammate Lee. Niji used his Byakugan to see the answers of someone behind him. Ino used her mind transfer jutsu to switch with Sakura and memorized her answers. Shikamaru, being the genius that he was, finished quickly, then used his shadow possession jutsu to take over Chuji's body and gave him the answers. Hinata used her Byakugan the same way Niji did. Shino had a fly roll around the room and get answers before relaying them to him. Kiba had Akamaru read the answers of the guy in front of him. Temari didn't need to study as she was actually smart. Kankuro switched himself with a puppet and had it memorize the questions. Gaara formed an eye with his sand and had it memorized answers from one of the other genin after he used a bit more sand to make him shut his eyes. Over the course of the 2 hours, multiple teams were thrown out by being caught cheating. When the 2 hours were up, Ibiki said, "Okay, Mag, it's time for the final question. Now you have a choice, you can take this question or not. If you choose not to, you can try again next year. If you take it and miss it, however, then you are forbidden from taking the exams in this village ever again." This was actually a major bluff since the man didn't have that kind of authority in the village. The genin didn't know that and immediately felt nervous. Some of them chickened out and left. Others, mainly the Konoha teams, the Suna team, the Kusa team, the Odo, Sound team, and a lot of other teams not really worth mentioning at the time. "Okay," Ibiki said, "are you all sure you want to continue?" After getting a confirmation from all of them, the man said, "Congratulations, you pass." Cue jaw dropping and the sounds of pencils hitting the desk. "What do you mean we pass?" Kankuro said, "What about the final question?" Ibiki answered, "There was no final question. This whole thing was a test on how well you could gather information without getting caught. The other aspect was how well you did while suffering from psychological torture." The man then undid his bandana, revealed his head, which was covered in scars and puncture wounds. Everyone grimaced at the sight of the wounds on his head. "How you cope with torture can affect the outcome of a mission," Ibiki said. "You need to be willing to take as secrets of your village to the grave. Now then, the next proctor should." The man was cut off when a large black object crashed through the window and spread out, revealing a banner that read, "Behold the proctor of the second exam, the sexy and shocking single Anko Mitarashi." There was a large puff of smoke revealing Anko in all her glory. The guys blushed and leered at her while the girls seemed to glare at her for being so provocatively dressed. Anko looked out among the group and said, "There are so many of these brats left, Ibiki. Are you starting to lose your touch?" Ibiki said, "I haven't started losing my touch, Anko. Besides, we have a few special cases this year." Anko simply shrugged before saying, "Don't worry your scarred head. I'll cut the amount of maggots in half by the time the second part is over. Okay, runts, follow me to the next exam." The genin shifted uneasily and started to follow the woman. They eventually came to a large training area, which was nothing new. What was new though was the fact that there was a large forest that looked more like a jungle. The place was surrounded by fences with warning signs and topped with barbed wire. Everyone was freaked out even more when what looked like a freakishly large centipede came out from the underbrush and gnashed its mandibles menacingly. "Welcome to Training Ground 44, Anko said with a sadistic grin, otherwise known as the Forest of Death. "This exam will be a survival exam. When instructed, each team will get a scroll. If you have an Earth scroll, you need to get a Heaven scroll and vice versa. When you gain both scrolls, you are to head to the tower located in the exact center of the forest. Under no circumstances are you allowed to open the scrolls while inside the forest. You also have a time limit of 5 days. Is that understood?" The special jonan got nods of confirmation. "Good. Now get your scrolls and go to your appointed gates." With their objectives in mind, each team went to a nearby shack that was covered up so no one would know what scroll they had. Team 7 had an Heaven scroll. Upon leaving, the teams went to their gates and waited. Anko's voice sounded over an intercom as she said, "Okay, maggots, the second exam has officially begun." The gates flew open and each team entered the deadly forest. A few minutes after running in, Team 7 stopped and landed on a branch. "Okay," Sasuke said, "we're going to need a plan here. I suggest we wait here and try and capture a team." Ami nodded as she pulled out a scroll and unsealed it, revealing a bunch of tools, wood, ninja wire, and a few other things. "Good thing that I'm a fast worker," Ami said as she cracked her knuckles and got straight to work. A few minutes later, the 3 genin were simply sitting around when a trio of nin wearing yellow jumpsuits and breathers landed around them. "Apparently Konoha is just as arrogant as we thought," the leader said. "Looks like we got easy pickings, boys." The 3 then ran at the Konoha genin. They would have continued running, but they hit a carefully placed trip line. The dirt in front of them gave way and a huge platform with multiple spikes shot up. Scatter! The one with his ears covered yelled. The three split in different directions. The one with his eyes covered stepped in a pile of leaves and wound up tied up in a pretty effective ninja wire net. He would have moved, but if he did move a lot the wire would cut him. The one with his ears covered jumped on a pile of leaves too, but he fell through a hole that was very well covered and placed. The impact at the bottom of the shaft broke the aim nin's leg. The third one, however, wasn't as dumb as his partners and ran at his enemies directly. He apparently thought that this was going to be easy. He was proven wrong when he was slammed in the stomach by Sakura's fist, cut across the back by Sasuke's naginata, and then electrocuted by a sudden burst of lightning chakra from Ami. The boy fell to the ground with a thud. Good work, Sakura said. Now let's see what they got. Fortunately for them, the AIM team had an earth scroll. Now let's get out of here before something else goes horribly wrong, Ami said as she placed the scrolls they had in her bag before they ran off. They would have done so in haste if not for the fact that a giant snake came out of nowhere and tried to turn them into a menu item. The group quickly dispersed to avoid the snake. Sakura and Sasuke took out some kunai with explosive notes tied to the ends. The pair threw them at the snake, piercing its scaly hide. They stood for a few seconds before going off. The snake hissed in agony. The three then decided to get out of there since there may be more than one of those nasty things around. They basically ran for what they thought would be the center of the forest. Good thing too, because they were actually heading for the center of the forest. Meanwhile, Naruto winced in disgust as he looked down at a trio of bodies. They were three sanin who looked like they had their faces melted off. Yuck, Naruto said. Who the heck could have done this? Next to him, Enko scowled and said, no doubt about it. This is his jutsu. Naruto looked at his fellow jonin confused before the purple-haired woman made a dash for the forest of death. Enko! Naruto yelled out as she ran. The boy mentally cursed before running after the woman. Back in the forest of death, Sasuke panted heavily as he kneeled before this woman. If he could call her that. He and his team had been attacked by a single sanin. She displayed incredible strength and prowess that were far above that of a genin. Sasuke wasn't really that surprised at this since a jonin was in fact a person his own age. Sakura and Ami were off to the side cowering. The woman had unleashed a vicious amount of killing intent that had the three frozen in fear. Naruto may have trained them to be strong, but he never trained them to go into a fight like this. Sasuke had managed to break through the fear by stabbing himself in the leg with a kunai. The boy had tried to fight her off using a few tricks and one of his fire jutsu, but it didn't work very well as she had replaced herself with a mud clone. The sanin seemed a little confused when Sasuke didn't try to activate his Sharingan during the entire duration of the battle. While Sasuke's teammates were currently incapacitated, the woman walked over to the Uchiha and moved his neck to the side, revealing the seal that was suppressing his Sharingan. Damn, the woman thought, I can't believe the old monkey sealed away his bloodline. I knew I should have studied more about seals. Oh well. I can always take him back to the village and learn from there. Just as the woman was about to grab the Uchiha, a familiar voice cried out, hidden shadow snakes. A pair of snakes shot out of nowhere and nearly took the woman's arm off. The girl jumped back and drove her legs into the tree branch before glaring angrily at the ankle who was glaring at her. Drop the charade, pal, the snake user growled. I know who you are. The genin chuckled slightly before reaching up to her face and ripping it off like a mask. When it was gone, the new face was pale with yellow eyes and purple makeup under the eyes. Enko-chan, the now revealed Orochimaru said, how long has it been? Enko yelled, shut up. You're going to pay for what you did to me. Enko launched herself at the man and smashed her fist into the man's jaw. Orochimaru didn't even flinch before smashing his own fist into Enko's stomach and sent her flying back. You couldn't beat me before, Enko-chan, the snake sage said. What makes you think you can beat me now? Orochimaru turned to the Uchiha only to find him gone as well as his teammates. The next thing the pale man knew, he was sent flying away by a punch that felt like it was from Tsunade. Orochimaru caught himself glared at the offender. His look turned from angry to shock when he saw Naruto standing there, his brown eyes turning blue. Orochimaru chuckled and asked, who is this Enko-chan? An apprentice? A new plaything maybe? Enko snarled at the man and sent a fierce glare his way. Naruto said, so you're the snake sanin. In all honesty, I thought you would be more impressive. Anyway, as a ninja of Konoha, I have to bring you down. This is also payback for you ruining the image of the great and talented Michael Jackson. Orochimaru snarled before shooting forward and attempting to smash his fist into the disrespectful blonde's face. He was shocked when Naruto ducked under his punch and his eyes turned green. Great whirlwind! A sudden gust of razor-sharp wind knocked the man upward and sent him flying upward while cutting him all over. The blonde's eyes turned red and he yelled, overheat. A huge blast of white-hot flames fired from the boy's mouth and nearly burned the snake sanin to a crisp. Fortunately for the snake sanin, he switched with a nearby log. When Orochimaru appeared again, Enko shot out and wrapped the man up in snakes. Naruto charged again with his eyes glowing brown and a powerful punch cracked his jaw, sending him into the side of a tree. As Orochimaru's vision started to clear, he saw Naruto going through a lot of hand signs while his eyes glowed brown. Earth style, ultimate technique, Wrath of Azura. The art started to focus around Naruto. The stones formed armor around the boy's hands, forearms, legs, and feet. They also formed 2 extra pairs of arms on his back situated on his shoulder blades. Naruto let out a roar of fury and started unleashing a vicious beatdown on the pale man. The beating continued for a few minutes until the armor on Naruto's legs shattered, followed by the extra arm pairs. Down to his own 2 fists, Naruto repeatedly punched the man until the armor on one arm broke. Naruto then drew back his arm and focused all the earth chakra he could. He then let out a fierce yell as he slammed the fist Orochimaru's body and sent the man flying straight through the tree. The man crashed into the forest floor, forming a crater. Naruto slumped over and breathed hard for a second. Anko went over to him and caught him. The purple-haired woman asked, "What happened to the kids? Did those 3 run off?" Naruto answered, "I had some shadow clones take them to the tower. I think they deserve to pass for going head-to-head with the snake sanin and getting out of it with a few scratches and some mental trauma. If I were in their shoes, I'd be lucky to get out alive." The snake-using woman nodded in understanding before heading for the tower herself. Meanwhile, down in the crater something shifted. A medium-sized white snake appeared and slithered out of the crater. The snake looked in the direction and thought, "With the Sharingan temporarily sealed away, I might need to find a new body. That blonde boy might just be what I'm looking for." After that thought, the snake slithered off into the underbrush. It had been a few days since the fight with Orochimaru. Upon finding out that his old student was in, he felt angry. Not at the snake sanin, but to himself. The old snake was one of his biggest regrets. His favoritism led to the boy defecting and turning into a monster. After hearing what Naruto had seen, he called for Yanbyu to get Jiraiya, the toad sanin, back in the village immediately. He also held the treat that if he didn't get to the village pronto, he was going to ban his books and place anti-peeping seals on the hot springs. In actuality, he passed for the second one to happen anyway, so he wouldn't lose focus. While Naruto was watching his temporary team, Anko approached him. "Hey Naruto," she asked, "something's been bugging me. When you fought the snake in the forest, you used hand signs. I wanted to know why. Your bloodline allows you to control the elements, don't they?" Naruto looked at his fellow jonan and said, "A bloodline can only do so much, Anko. I learned a while that if I have my bloodline active and I use hand signs, the jutsu focuses much faster than without them. Plus it causes the jutsu to triple in power. The side effect that it drains a bit more chakra, and the technique is susceptible to bloodlines like the Sharingan." Anko looked shocked at the boy before her and smiled with his reason. She slapped the boy on the back. While this was going on, the genin had gone up to the banister and were waiting for the names to be called for the finalists. While the names were being cycled through, Naruto felt a tug at the back of his mind. He heard something calling to him. Naruto looked out and raised his eyebrow, making Sam Eof, his fellow jonin, and a few of the genin look at him curiously. "You okay, Naruto?" Kurenai asked. "I have to business to take care of," Naruto said. "Let me know how the fights go. I don't know when I'll be back." Naruto then left the tower and went deep into the forest. Naruto followed the feeling. As the strange feeling in the back of his neck grew stronger, he found himself in the middle of the forest of death, standing in front of a grand oak tree that stood 30 stories tall. Naruto approached the tree and felt wisdom and power radiating off the tree. Naruto got closer and the roots that connected to the ground slowly opened, revealing a tunnel beneath. Naruto cautiously entered the passage and the roots closed behind him. Naruto walked through the passage and found himself in the middle of a large marble chamber. Naruto immediately caught sight of a large scroll in the middle of the room on a pedestal. Naruto reached out and touched the scroll. Naruto cried out in pain as chakra shot from the scroll and ran over his entire body. Naruto stumbled backwards and fainted. Smoke then filled the room, and when it cleared, the blonde was gone, and so was the scroll. A few minutes later, in the summon realm, Naruto woke with a start. He looked around and saw he was on what looked like a huge mountain. The blonde wasn't in the middle of thinking where the heck he was when he heard what sounded like a low snarl. Naruto found himself surrounded by 4 awesome and terrifying creatures. One was a large white tiger with shining fur, large green eyes, and razor-sharp claws and fangs. A large dark blue and green tortoise who had a scratched and cracked shell, obviously from many battles. A large and very beautiful phoenix with dark red flames covering its entire body. Despite having its wings folded, Naruto could tell that the bird was huge. Finally, there was a large dark red western dragon with dark blue scales and yellow membranes on its wings. "It has been a long time since we have seen a human here," the dragon said. "Who are you?" Naruto asked as respectfully as he could, not wanting to anger the large creatures. "I am Haru, Spring, Guardian of the East," the dragon said. "I am Kyuka, Summer, Guardian of the South," the phoenix said. "I am Aki, Autumn, Guardian of the West," the tiger said. "I am Fuyu, Winter, Guardian of the North," the tortoise said. Naruto's eyes widened as he heard the titles. "The 4 legendary summons," Naruto said. "I thought you were just a legend. Something to lull children to sleep with at night." Kyuka chuckled and said, "As you can tell, we aren't legends. We've been watching you, Naruto. Watching you grow strong." Fuyu said, "We have seen the future. Without you, the world will surely fall into the madness. Under the iron-fisted rule of a demented man with powerful eyes." Naruto looked up at them and said, "What do you want me to do about it?" Haru answered, "We know of a prophecy. It says that boy with 3 marks emblazoned on his face shall wield the power to either save the world or destroy it. You are that boy." Naruto's eyes widened and said, "Me?" Aki said, "Yes. You see, we want to help you. If this man takes over the world, then the summon world will be placed in jeopardy. We, as the guardians of Earth, will not allow this travesty to happen. We have decided to let you summon our kind, to help you become as strong as possible when the time comes. Naruto bowed before the 4 guardians and said, I am very honored. Now present your weapons for you, said. Naruto unsealed his weapons. Slowly they all floated upwards. The sword to Aki, the tonfa to Fuyu, the kusagarigama to Kyuka, and the staff to Haru. The 4 guardians unleashed their chakra and infused the energy with the weapons, and slowly the weapons changed. Naruto's sword turned white and snow with a few ice spikes coming off the hilt, and black tiger stripes running up the blade. The kanji for Ice Tiger appeared on the blade. The 2 tonfa turned dark blue with black spike balls on the end. In deep green, a pattern that resembled a tortoise's shell was etched into the ball. The kanji for Shell Crashers appeared on the shaft of both of them. The kusagarigama turned dark red with a black chain and flame pattern that actually seemed to move on the side blade. The weight on the other end now had holes in the spikes, most likely for producing flames. The kanji for Crashing Fire appeared on the end of the weight. Finally, they grew thicker and longer until it was as tall as Naruto was. Large bronze weights appeared on top with large spikes on them. The massive staff now had the kanji for Crushing Dragon on it. As the new weapons floated down to Naruto, he felt the power radiating off them. Naruto quickly bowed to the great beings and said, Thank you. Kyuka said, You are quite welcome, my boy. Now go. Naruto burst into smoke and went back to his world. In the human world, Naruto looked up, and as soon as the smoke cleared and saw that the moon was rising, meaning he had actually been gone for a few hours, the boy quickly made his way to Konoha, where he found himself at a regular jonan hangout, the sharpened kunai. Naruto stepped in, and almost as soon as he was embraced by Anko. Hey Naruto, where have you been? The snake mistress said, You were gone for hours. We actually thought you had been kidnapped. Naruto sighed and said, You wouldn't believe me even if I told you. The other jonin approached him, and Kurenai said, Try us, we're gullible. One story and weapon showing later. The jonin all had their jaws on the floor as they finished hearing Naruto's tale. They all thought that Naruto had a relapse in the forest, and had merely dreamed the whole thing until he took out his enhanced weapons. Any doubts on the story were then wiped out because not even the best forger in Konoha, much to his ire, was not that skilled. So enough about that, Naruto said. What happened in the preliminary matches? Naruto was surprised at what he heard. Sasuke had to fight one of Kabuto's teammate who revealed an ability to drain chakra from physical contact. Luckily, Sasuke was able to keep the boy at bay with a regular flux of fire chakra, sending a heat wave that made him too hot to touch. Sasuke eventually beat his opponent using his newly formed Naginata to stab through his chakra-draining arm and broke it. Sakura was pitted against Ino. The Yamanaka heiress started spitting out crud about how true love would prevail and allow her to beat Sakura and prove herself to Sasuke. Sakura proceeded to shut the blonde up by socking her in the face. A one-sided fight then proceeded with Sakura beating the tar out of Ino. Ino eventually tired her mind transfer jutsu, but the girl wound up getting kicked by inner Sakura. The pink-haired Kunoichi then unleashed her nunchuka and started to beat down on Ino for the invasion of her mind. Ino was now unconscious and Sakura stood the victor. Ami had to face against Kiba and Izuka. The fight was pretty one-sided in Kiba's favor since taijutsu was still not one of Ami's strongest areas. She eventually lured the dog user into a trap using a landmine stink bomb combination. When Kiba stepped on it, he was hit with a horrible stink that made him, and his dog Akamaru, dizzy. One lightning jutsu later, Kiba was unconscious. The other matches weren't that interesting. One match that had heads turning was the fight between Neji and Hinata Hyuga. Neji almost killed Hinata if not for the Jonin's intervention. Naruto made a mental note to hurt He-Boy badly, or at least tell his temporary team to do it. Another match was between Rock Lee and Gaara. Gaara showed complete insanity and bloodlust, and he actually crippled Lee by using his sand to crush his arm and leg. Naruto growled and said, Looks like we got some tough suckers this time around. I'll really need to help my students. Anko said, Sorry Naruto, but Kakashi already took his team back. From what I can guess, he'll be teaching the Uchiha himself. Naruto snapped his fingers in annoyance and said, Dang it. Well, I'll see if I can find the other two and help them should they need it. Who are they fighting anyway? Asuma pulled out a slip of paper and handed the list to the young jonin. Ami vs Neji, Sasuke vs Gaara, Sakura vs Temari, Kankuro vs Shino, Shikimura vs Dosu. Naruto looked around at the list and said, I'll have to do some thinking on the training I'll have to do. With that, Naruto left to go home to think about how to train his students should they actually go to him for help. Hey Naruto! Naruto turned around to see Tsum walking up to him without her Niken with her. Hey Tsum, Naruto said, What are you doing here? Tsum said, I've been meaning to talk to you, but I've been busy. Listen, I wanted to thank you for saving my daughter properly. I was wondering if you could come over tomorrow night for dinner? Naruto developed a smirk, said, Tsum-chan, are you asking me out? The pharaoh woman shifted slightly and said, Maybe. Naruto shrugged after a second and said, Sure. Meet you tomorrow at the Inuzuka complex around 5? The woman nodded. Naruto then walked away, leaving the pharaoh woman to her thoughts. As Tsum, a mini Tsum in her head, started doing a happy dance, and waving large banner back and forth while squealing, We got a date! We got a date! Woohoo! I still got it. The month between the preliminaries and the finals had gone pretty quickly. While the month had gone by, all the participating jonin had been training insanely. Kakashi was disappointed in himself when he heard tales of the training that they had received from Naruto. The younger blonde had taught his team in 2 months more than what he had taught them in the entire time he had them. Sakura and Ami tried to go to Kakashi for training since they figured he would have learned his lesson. Unfortunately, he was already gone by then to train Sasuke for the finals. When they didn't, they went to Naruto for help. He was hard to find, but they managed to track them down. Naruto then focused on enhancing the girls' chakra control further. While training, Naruto told Sakura about chakra scalpels and how they were helpful in combat. It was then that Sakura mentioned fusing that technique with Tsunade's super strength. The idea ran through Naruto's brain about the fusion, and the two thought of ways to combine the two moves. As for Ami, the girl tried to find a way to fuse lightning chakra with her iron traps as well as how to set them during the battlefield quickly and efficiently. To help her with this, Naruto gave her a special belt with different scrolls. The scrolls had metal traps in them that had special seals that stored lightning chakra. Naruto gave her a specialized jutsu of his own making called Lightning Style, Lightning Flash. The technique focused lighting chakra in her hands and when clapped causes a bright flash of light that temporarily blind opponent, allowing escape, a sneak attack, or an opening for a powerful technique. When that was done, Naruto also gave them a jutsu to help in their coming battles. And thank you again Berry for the inspiration. For Sakura it was Earth Style, Gravel Gauntlet. The technique formed boxing gloves around the hands, made out of chakra. Now the gloves were strong enough to break bones, but that was only if you added enough chakra. If you didn't, it would still hurt like heck. Ami got Lightning Style, Electron Whip. The technique formed a whip made of electricity on her fingers. When struck, an electrical surge goes through the body of the target, and causing them to become paralyzed for about 40 seconds. Eventually Sasuke came to Naruto demanding a jutsu from him. Naruto grinned in response and gave him one. The thing is, it wasn't powerful and was mostly used as a joke. When Naruto showed it to Sasuke, he faked molding chakra and used his fire manipulation powers to fire a huge surge of pure white flames. Sasuke, without his Sharingan, didn't see this and took the technique. While he thought it was a powerful technique, the fire jutsu was actually pretty weak. It was called Fire Style, Flame Pellet. It would fire a few fireballs about the size of a marble. They could explode, but it would only be with the force of a firecracker. What Sasuke didn't know was that Naruto had a second jutsu to go with that technique that turned the little pellets into small grenades. Naruto didn't teach him that one though, because he wanted to see the look on the Uchiha's face when the jutsu failed. When he wasn't helping the good members of his team, Naruto was training with his new weapons. Naruto found that when he used Ice Tiger, his control over wind and ice jutsu was greatly increased. Naruto learned that with the shell crashers he could add earth chakra to them and was able to smash them through the hardest of materials. Naruto learned with crashing fire he could ignite the two weapons on the edge of the chains and then send the flames hurling with a single strike. Crushing Dragon had the same powers as crashing fire, except it didn't have as long as a reach and the flames didn't burn as hot. Naruto eventually learned to summon the animals himself, not using enough chakra to summon the bosses of the contracts. He actually formed a deep partnership with 3 tigers from Aki's clan. They were called the Frozen Fangs for their ice jutsu and their incredible skills in combat. The tigers also came handy when he wanted to intimidate some girls away from him. After his date with some, things had gone well for the two. Kiba was initially shocked that Naruto was dating his mother and was considering fighting him, but remembered that Naruto was a jonin for a reason. That and having his mother threaten to rip his colon out and shove it up his butt was a good reason too. A lot of Naruto's fangirls were upset when they learned that Naruto was now off the market. Some of them even plotted to sneak into the Inuzuka compound to assassinate her so Naruto would be single. That idea was lost to them when the girls who tried were found outside the hospital with multiple broken bones, burns, and a lot of bite and claw marks. After that, nobody tried again. The Chunin exam finals, the central arena. The entire village had come to see the finals. A lot of them were potential customers to the villages wanting to see who they should hire for mission and all that other stuff. Among them were the Konoha 12 members who didn't make it. In a special booth overlooking the arena were the Hokage and the Kazekage. In the ring stood Ami, Neji, Gaara, Sakura, Temari, Kankuro, Shino, and Shikamaru. Naruto looked down from the stands with Tsum standing next to him. Shame Kiba isn't down there, Tsum said as she wrapped her arms around her boyfriend. I would have loved to see him fight. Naruto chuckled and said, that's what he gets for underestimating one of my students. Ino was nearby watching the fight intently. She wanted to see Sakura fight so she could prove that her losing was a total fluke. Unlike Sakura, Ino had yet to get out of the fangirl stage. She saw her loss as a major blow to her chances with Sasuke, even if they were non-existent in the first place. All right, a man with a saban in his teeth said, my name is Genma. I'll be the proctor for the finals. Now there has been a slight change up in the lineup, so learn the setup. The man held up a new roster showing who was fighting who. Ami vs Neji, Sasuke vs Gaara, Sakura vs Temari, Kankuro vs Shino, Shikamaru vs winner of round 3. Shikamaru sighed in his head and thought, great, my troublesome opponent may be gone, but I still have to fight one of 2 troublesome women. What a drag. After everyone went over the roster, Genma said, okay, the first match of the Chunin exams finals between Ami and Niji. Those two stay, but the rest of you got up to the designated area. The two ninjas stayed down in the arena and Genma said, the first round with Niji versus Ami will now begin. Are the contestants ready? Begin. Niji immediately activated his Byakugan and charged at Ami, intent on ending the match quickly as fate smiled upon him. Ami quickly dodged the attack before she grabbed Niji's arms and pulled, making the boy stumble. Ami then focused chakra into one knee and brought it up, slamming the appendage into Niji's stomach, making him cry out in pain. He was then knocked backwards by a powerful punch to the face. You are stronger than you look, Niji said. It seems fate has allowed you to challenge me. Niji shot forward and aimed a few strikes at Ami. The girl dodged them, but Niji changed his tactics and pulled his arms back, not allowing her to grab him again. At the moment, Ami was glad her training included dodging enhanced punches from Naruto. As she dodged, the trap mistress in training took a few pellets out of her pocket. When she dodged a strike aimed for her shoulder, she threw the ball in Niji's face. The balls burst, sending a liquid over his face. Niji screamed in pain as he felt his eyes sting. Trickster rule number 1: think outside the box, Ami thought as the lemon juice in the balls took effect on Niji's eyes sight. As the Hyuga prodigy's eyesight began to clear, he found himself punched in the face, kicked in the gut, before a roundhouse kick sent him sprawling. A lot of people were surprised that fangirl was actually kicking, but especially since she only passed the academy on academics. Her parents, however, beamed down at the arena in pride at seeing their baby girl take on one of the more powerful clans of Konoha and winning. While Niji was down, Ami went through hand signs before calling out her jutsu, lightning style, feathers of the Thunderbird. Ami pushed her hands out as electric feathers shot out of her hands. Niji saw this and cursed. Rotation. Niji spun on his heel, forming a dome of chakra that blocked the feathers and sent them flying in different directions. While Niji was still spinning, Ami pulled a scroll of her belt and opened it, revealing it to be blank, and set it out in front of her before kicking the dirt, making the topsoil cover the paper. When Niji stopped spinning, he yelled, "You little piece of filth!" Niji charged blindly in a stance the watching Hyuga knew. It was for their most powerful technique. In his blind rage, Niji didn't watch where he was going and stepped on the hidden parchment. 3 curved metal spikes shot up and bit into Niji's ankle just below the tibial artery. The lighting seal on the traps sent a volt of electricity through the man's leg, making I go numb. As Niji cried out in pain, he heard Ami call out a technique. Lightning style. Electron whip. A whip made of lighting focused on her fingers and shot off, wrapping around Niji, shocking him and paralyzing his body. He was then the victim of a lighting chakra-enhanced haymaker that knocked him straight out. Winner Ami. The Hyuga were shocked. One of the strongest clans in the village humbled by a civilian-born ninja. Ami's parents were hugging each other and jumping up and down with joy at seeing their daughter fight so well. As Ami went to the contestants' box, certain members of the crowd were talking. That kid was a Hyuga, right? One man asked. I thought they were supposed to be strong? Another civilian said, maybe clan name doesn't mean much in terms of power like it used to back in the day. The other civilians nodded as they heard this. In the Kage booth, Sarutobi said, interesting. She showed excellent use of lightning jutsu and skills with traps. Quite impressive for a former fangirl, isn't it? The Kaze Kage nodded and said, one of Konoha's strongest clans humbled by a civilian one. This should be a real eye-opener for the clan. In the arena, Genma said, okay, will the Gaara of the desert and Sasuke Uchiha please come down to the ring? Gaara appeared in a blast of sand and waited for a few minutes. When he didn't show, the Kazekage turned to the leader of the Leaf Village. It looks like he isn't going to show, Sarutobi said. Hokage-sama, I asked you hold off the boys' match until later, the Kazekage said. Many people came here to see the Uchiha survivor fight. The old man turned to the younger Kage and said, and if Sasuke were to arrive late at a battlefield, his comrades would be dead. I cannot allow such behavior to be seen. It makes my ninja seem incompetent. I will allow the Uchiha to fight at a later date, but he will not receive promotion. The Kazekage nodded as he heard that. From the corner of his eyes, the Hokage could see a dark smirk form under the man's mask, one that he remembered all too well. The old man made a discreet sign and a few ANBU moved into the arena as discreetly as possible. A Chunin came down and whispered something into Genma's ear. The Senbon chewing man nodded and announced, the battle between Gaara of the desert and Sasuke Uchiha will be postponed. However, due to his tardiness, the Uchiha will not be receiving any promotion. A few of the Uchiha but kissers cried out in distaste and anger at hearing that he Uchiha wouldn't be getting any promotion. Some of his more insane fangirls made a motion to go up to the Kage booth and complain to the old man. That was when one of the more logical ones mentioned that doing so would be suicide when facing their leader. The group immediately stopped after that. Now then, Genma said as the civilians settled down, the next match between Sakura Haruno and Temari will begin. Temari and Sakura entered the arena with Temari brandishing her battle fan and Sakura brandishing her nunchaku. Hajime, the pink-haired kunoichi, shot forward, swinging her weapons. Temari swung her battle fan, intent on ending the fight quickly with a single blast. Sakura simply went through hand signs quickly. Earth style, Earth Shatter Dome. A lot of rocks shot up from the ground and blocked the attack. Sakura then went through more hand signs. Earth style, Stone Spear's Assault. The rocks Sakura brought up from the ground sharpened and were sent flying at Temari, who waved her fan again, this time slicing the rocks to pieces. Sakura ran nimbly through the boulders and was upon Temari in an instant. Temari dodged the punch aimed at her face and blocked the sudden kick to her stomach. She was then caught off guard by a right cross to the face that cracked a few teeth. This was one of Temari's flaws. While she was great at mid to long range combat, her close-up fighting was not that effective. Sakura jumped back and Temari fell into her hands. As soon as Temari's fan opened up, Sakura shot forward with green chakra forming on her hands. Chakra Scalpel. As soon as Sakura's hand made contact with the fan, the whole thing was ripped apart with a huge slice going through the paper and almost slicing. Sakura then brandished her nunchuka and slammed the pair of weapons into Temari's stomach, making the woman double over in pain. She was sent skyward by a powerful knee strike to the face, and was then grabbed by the throat and slammed on the ground with a loud crash. Sakura then got on top of Temari and stomped down on her head, knocking her out. Winner, Sakura Haruno. There was cheering from the village. They were dominating this tournament. Kankuro was looking down at the arena in shock at seeing his older sister being beaten so easily. Apparently the village wasn't as lame as he had been led to believe. He was really hoping the plan went well after this. Sakura's parents were looking down in pride at the little girl. The next match between Kankuro and Shino Aburame will now begin, Genma announced. Kankuro thought, crud. I'm not supposed to show my puppet Aster Jutsu until after Gaara's match. Curse that arrogant duck-haired prick. Somewhere else the Uchiha sneezed. Kankuro looked out over the ring and said, Proctor, I withdraw. The entire arena let out cries of outrage, and some started yelling at Kankuro, telling him that he shouldn't have even shown up today. A few even made clown references to the guy, making him burn in rage. Well then, Genma said, the next match between Shikamaru Nara and Sakura Haruno will now begin. While Sakura was heading down to the ring, Shikamaru was considering withdrawing. At least he was, until Shino snuck up behind him and pushed him over the railing of the booth and sent him down into the arena. Everyone looked at the boy, who said, you didn't see anything. Down in the arena the fight began and was pretty one-sided. Being a Naro, Shikamaru had this strange fear of women. As soon as the match began, he immediately began dodging every last attack that Sakura threw at him. Sakura seemed to pick up on this, and even sent a few chakra scalpels his way to freak him out. I withdraw, the Narair yelled, I withdraw. Just get this troublesome woman to stop. Sakura stopped punching, but then sent the man flying upward by a powerful kick to the chin, sending him flying. Shikamaru hit the ground knocked out. While he was, a dark aura was seen up from the boy's mother Yoshino. Just as the Nara was taken off the field to check for brain damage, there was a large surge of wind, and in a torrent of leaves Kakashi and Sasuke appeared. Sasuke was now wearing all black with bandages around his arms and legs. Are we late? Kakashi asked, I smiling. Genma answered, yes you are. Your match was postponed, and the Uchiha has been denied promotion due to his tardiness. Sasuke heard that and instantly fumed. How dare that old man keep him from being promoted to Chunin? The Uchiha then calmed down and thought that when he showed his supreme skill, then the old man would change his mind and give him the rank that he truly deserves. He was cut off from his self-praising thoughts as Gaara appeared in a swirl of sand. All right, Genma said, the match between Gaara of the desert and Sasuke Uchiha can finally begin. Contestants ready? Hajime. The cork on Gaara's gourd popped off, instantly shot off, and the sand inside of it formed a clone of Gaara. Sasuke vanished from sight and slammed into the clone, making it burst into small pieces. Gaara gasped as he remembered his fight with Lee. In the stands, Guy asked, how did Sasuke learn my style so fast, Kakashi? His bloodline was sealed. Kakashi answered, I tied a bunch of rocks to his hands and legs and made him run laps. Guy did seem a little upset, since he had still stolen his style instead of learning it in a sense. In the arena, Gaara was getting clobbered by a bunch of punches from Sasuke. Eventually Gaara formed a dome of sand around him. Sasuke slammed his fist into the dome only to find himself cradling an injured hand and bleeding knuckles. Sasuke then jumped backwards and ran up the wall of the arena using chakra. The boy then went through hand signs for a jutsu that Naruto immediately recognized. The blonde ran over to Kakashi, ripped the book out of his hands, and then lifted him up into the air with absolute rage burning in his eyes. You taught him that jutsu? Are you insane? Naruto yelled. Kakashi looked nervous and said, he's facing that Gaara psychopath. He is going to need all the help he can get. Naruto slammed Kakashi into the wall and yelled, he may be going against a psychopath, but that is still no reason to teach a genin with a slightly unstable mind an assassination jutsu. Upon hearing that, Ino, who was nearby, asked, an assassination jutsu? Naruto dropped Kakashi and said, that technique is called the Chidori. A jutsu based on the Rasengan used by my father. The technique focuses chakra into his hand and allows the user to plunge it into someone. The only problem is that Sasuke needs to see the target to use it. Sasuke then launched himself down and called out, Chidori. The lightning attack pierced the dome and hit something. Sasuke felt a warm liquid ooze over his hand and knew he had hit Gaara. What is this? Gaara asked. Blood? Blood. My blood. You made me bleed. A deformed arm shot out and swatted Sasuke away like a fly. Sasuke looked at the dome and saw through the hole he made there was a yellow eye with 4 diamonds in the iris. At that moment white feathers started to fall down around the arena and the Kage booth exploded into smoke. Immediately ANBU burst out of nowhere into the arena and released the civilians from the genjutsu that had taken them. Naruto grinned and said, "Let the games begin. Make alternate Gaara fight." When the dome of sand formed around Gaara, Sasuke pulled out the powerful technique Naruto taught him. Fire style. Flame pellet. The marble-sized ball of fire hit the dome with little force and exploded. Very weakly, I might add. There was a deep silence and a wind blew through the area. Gaara burst from his dome and yelled, "You dare insult me with such a weak technique? Die!" Sasuke was then violently crushed to death by Gaara. A brief funeral was held, and since no one could think of anything good to say, the process was short. Sasuke didn't really have a lot of money to be buried because Itachi took the clan finances when he left the village, so Sasuke was just thrown in a random hole and buried. He would have gotten support from his fangirls, but after the weak jutsu his support fell, fangirls included. Orochimaru eventually died due to his inability to find a good host's body, so he eventually died out. His powers went to Kabuto, now called Kabutamaru, but with the pedo snake's brain in his head the guy went mad and killed himself in a deluded fit of madness. Itachi heard of what happened to his brother and, in private, laughed himself to death. All in all, Sasuke was more useful to the village in death than in life. ANBU and Ninja shot out from the stands and clashed with each other. Ninja from Suna, Oto, and Konoha clashed into one another in kunai, shuriken, jutsu, basically every other battle-worthy thing they could. Kakashi blocked a kunai from a sound ninja before slamming another kunai into his head. Enko launched a few snakes from her sleeves, tying up a few of the sand and sound nin before they sank their fangs into their necks, poisoning them. Kurina used a few genjutsu and caught a few of her targets into them. A few seconds later they collapsed to the ground with drool coming out of their mouths. Asuma was slicing through his targets with his trench knives. The wind chakra-covered blades cut through them like knives through butter. Guy was going crazy on his enemies. The man was plowing through them one by one, bouncing from one opposing nin to another using his deadly fists and feet. Each impact felt like sledgehammers to whoever he hit. Suddenly a large group of sound ninja appeared in front of them and charged at all the jonin. Naruto suddenly jumped down in front of them with Ice Tiger drawn, his left eye blue, and his right eye green. Cold air collected around the sword's blade as Naruto yelled, "Blade of Frozen Wind." Naruto swung the sword and the blade launched a large crescent-shaped chakra blade. The waves sliced through the enemy ninja in front of them and formed a layer of frost on the fresh corpses and the ground and walls. "Whoa," Asuma said, "when did he learn to do that?" Naruto then turned his head toward the large box of dark chakra that covered roof of the Kage booth. Naruto sealed away his sword and unsealed his staff. The blonde then turned toward Kakashi and growled, "Kakashi, go get your runaway student. I saw him running after the siblings from Suna. Stop that little runt before he gets killed." Kakashi nodded before running off. Naruto then shot off towards the box and ran up the side of the arena before he reached the top. Naruto's eyes turned brown and chakra flashed around the iron weights at the end of his staff. Naruto jumped up in front of a fat man with a red mohawk and shouted as he slammed the weapon down on the tile. The impact shook the roof, and the tile cracked before it broke and shot beneath the blow. As it broke, the fat man fell screaming to the ground and hit the ground below with a loud crunch as it shattered his bones. The field that surrounded the roof dimmed away and the field was completely exposed. The 4 ANBU that stood on the outside of the field ran in with their weapons drawn to attack Orochimaru. Naruto roared, "Don't come any closer. His head is mine." Orochimaru chuckled and said, "Like you can try and beat me, boy. You may have gotten me before, but you just got me by surprise. Now I'll be sure to kill you." Naruto smirked and said, "Come on then. You go, old man. I'll take care of this snake in the grass." The old man was hesitant, but he nodded and ran off. "I don't care if I have to kill you to get to the old man," the snake sanin said. "I will kill him today." Naruto smirked as Eni poked his thumb on the bronze spikes on the bottom of his staff. He then slammed it on the ground, summoning jutsu, tortoise, dragon, phoenix. Smoke covered the young jonin. When it cleared, a red serpentine eastern dragon, a large black tortoise with a green shell, and a medium-sized red and white phoenix. Naruto pointed his thumb behind him and said, "Take care of these knuckleheads, I got the big man." The 3 beasts moved towards the remaining sound ninja that surrounded Orochimaru. Naruto glared at Orochimaru, who looked shocked at Naruto summoning 3 animals all at once. His face quickly returned to normal. "So you have a few new tricks, boy," Orochimaru said with a smirk. Orochimaru's mouth opened wide before a snake slithered out of his oral cavity. The snake opened his mouth and a sword slipped out of the snake's mouth. Orochimaru took the sword into his hand. Naruto quickly sealed away his staff and unsealed Ice Tiger. "You can't beat me, boy," the snake sanin said. Naruto pointed his weapon at the sanin's face and said, "Less talking, more killing." Naruto charged at the snake sanin with impressive speed. The snake man blocked the attack with a loud clang. The two then started to exchange blows repeatedly with loud clangs. The sound of their battle echoed through the arena, and the ground beneath them started to crack from the force of their blows. After 3 minutes of swinging, the group stood at a stalemate, struggling to gain a leg up on the other. "Is this the best you got, you legless iguana?" Naruto growled. "In your dreams, the snake sanin, even if I die the leaf will fall." Naruto growled, You will never beat this village or the old man, you monster, Orochimaru said. Soon brought the monster. Naruto applied chakra to his sword, sending a wave of cold air. The man jumped back as the cold feeling made his hands sting. The boy's fist slammed into the snake Sanin's jaw and sent him rolling. Naruto roared in fury as he charged swing his ice-cold weapon. Meanwhile, Sasuke called out in pain when he was slammed into a tree. He looked up to see Gaara, who had transformed into a miniature version of the Shikaku with only his feet being unaffected. You will die here, Uchiha, the young Tsunagenin roared furiously with insanity visible in his eyes. Gaara's mutated hand shot out and wrapped around Sasuke, and it started to apply a ulti of pressure. Sasuke called out in pain as he felt his bones started to be crushed under the pressure of Gaara's giant hand. Gaara would have made the boy's head pop off like a bottle cap if someone hadn't intervened. Rasengan! A spiral ball of chakra slammed into the boy's face, knocking him back and slamming him through a tree. The Sand Jinchuriki dropped Sasuke down on his back and looked up to see a man in kabuki clothes with long white hair. Gaara snarled and yelled, "How dare you get in my way? I'll kill you too!" Sand flowed around Gaara before he suddenly burst in size, growing incredibly large in size. In his place stood the Ichibi no Shikaku. The old man cut his thumb and went through a few hand signs. Summoning jutsu, a large plume of smoke shot up and covered the area around him. When it cleared, it revealed a huge toad about the size of Shikaku wearing a robe with a sword on his waist. "Jiraiya, you old lecher," the toad shouted, obviously angry. "Why have you summoned me this time?" Jiraiya said, "Sorry to disturb you, Gamabunta, but I need some help with this guy." The large toad looked at a large raccoon and said, "Shikaku of the desert. Why do you always get me in these troublesome situations?" In the village, Shikamaru and his old man sneezed before getting back to the fight. Back with Naruto, Orochimaru dodged another swing of the sword from Naruto, only to receive a powerful kick to the face. As he stumbled to get slashed across the chest and get a punch to the face, Orochimaru wasn't doing so well. He didn't expect Naruto get so much stronger in just a month. So far he had been slashed, frozen, and knocked around. Whenever he summoned his snakes to attack, the cold nature of his sword caused them to back off due to their cold-blooded nature. Orochimaru also made a mistake underestimating the boy's speed. Whenever he Medea motioned to do hand signs, the boy seemed to see it coming and swung at him, intent on taking a limb. Orochimaru blocked another strike from Naruto's sword and swung out a kick with a loud crack as it knocked the kusangi out of his hand. Naruto then unleashed a vicious right hook, left jab, and a right uppercut. "Here you die, snake man," Naruto snarled. Naruto slammed his fist into Orochimaru's jaw and knocked him off his feet. Both of Naruto's eyes flashed green before he roared, "Hurricane Blade!" Naruto swung his sword in a vertical arc with a swing, and a huge gash and a splash of blood was sent outward as Orochimaru screamed in pain. The two halves of Orochimaru lay on the ground before a huge white snake burst from the upper portion wrapped around Naruto, immobilizing him. The snake sage then proceeded to sink his teeth into Naruto's neck. Naruto cried out in pain before black ink started to form on Naruto's neck. The dots formed a chain in a circle pattern with a flame image in the middle. The curse mark of hell, the snake sanin thought, "This boy really is interesting. With a bloodline like his, I could become more powerful than ever if I use his body. Then there's the extra boost of the Biju's chakra. He'll seek me out eventually. For now, though, I'd better retreat." Before the white snake could even begin to move, he suddenly cried out in pain as lightning surged through him. Naruto's eyes burned white as he glared at the snake that bound him. The young jonin grabbed the snake's head before ripping him off his person and slamming him down. Naruto then threw him away. As Orochimaru's snake form lay on the ground twitching from the electric current, Naruto's left eye turned blue while the right one turned green. Naruto ignored the burning pain in the side of his neck. The blonde then drew back his fist as ice-cold wind focused on the appendage. Ice style, ultimate technique, Howl of Fenrir. Naruto shot forward with a trail of ice following him. Orochimaru reverted back to his old form just in time for Naruto's fist to hit his chest and go straight through it. Orochimaru could only gasp as ice covered him, freezing him solid. Naruto then lifted the insane man off the ground before slamming him onto the ground. Orochimaru's frozen body shattered into millions of pieces. Naruto slowly stumbled and fell to the ground. As he did, red chakra slowly covered his body and focused on the curse mark on his neck. A few Yanbu jumped down and lifted the boy up before rushing off to the hospital. Meanwhile, in Naruto's mind, Naruto looked around to find himself in the middle of vast forest. Naruto looked around for a few minutes before he heard something. "Come to me, boy. We have much to discuss." Despite his better judgment, Naruto followed the voice. He was shocked when he found himself in the middle of a large clearing. In the middle of the clearing was a large crimson-red fox with a collar around its neck that had the kanji for seal. What got Naruto's attention were the 9 long tails that swayed to and fro behind it. "So you're my jailer," the fox said. "I was actually expecting someone much older." Naruto gripped his sword and said, "Kyubi, I presume." The fox seemed to chuckle and said, "Yes. Kyubi is just my title, however. Call me Kurama." Naruto looked up at the large animal and said, "What do you want with me?" Kyubi raised his head and said, "Straight to the point." "Good. It involves what that slimy serpent did to you right before you killed him. Naruto looked at him and said, the curse mark. The nine-tailed demon nodded. The curse mark seems to be an outdated seal that contains special enzymes that increase aggression in the victim, and can cause unpredictable transformations. The problem is that this can cause damage to the brain, and eventually drive somebody to madness. Naruto looked shocked before asking, so you're going to get rid of it? The fox shook his head and said, no child. I'm going to improve it. Naruto gasped and yelled, what? The fox chuckled and said, that seal is sucking up my chakra quickly. The seal already on you is transferring my chakra into yours after purifying it. If this keeps up, I will disappear from the world. If I'm going to die, I might as well do something before I kick the bucket. So just sit back, relax, and let me do all the work. The Kyuubi then unleashed a loud roar that actually seemed to knock Naruto out. In the real world, it put Naruto into a coma. Kurama simply laid his head down and slept as he felt his chakra slowly being drained away. It had been a few weeks since Naruto had slain Orochimaru. Word had spread quickly about Orochimaru's death, and the Sound Forces quickly surrendered when they heard of their master's death at the hands of Naruto. Kabuto had been captured and taken into custody. The little punk, however, took the coward's way out and took a suicide pill hidden in his teeth. The bodies of the Sound Four were discovered badly beaten and dead. The entire medical staff got to work to see if they could decipher anything about the Sound Village. They took special interest in the curse marks that they had. Speaking of curse marks, Naruto had woken up from his coma after the fight with Orochimaru after a week. Naruto found that the curse mark didn't seem to bother him as much as it did when the snake pedophile bit him during the battle. After his waking, he was given a Medal of Honor for his performance. Out of the invasion, all the genin managed to come out unharmed. Well, most of them managed to come out unharmed. Sasuke had his legs broken in the fight with Gaara. Fortunately or unfortunately, depends on your point of view, the doctors were able to fix the Uchiha's legs and they said he would be able to walk by the end of the week and train by the end of the month. Ami, Sakura, and Shikamaru were given promotion to Chunin for their skills shown in the finals and in the invasion. While Ami and Sakura were excited, Shikamaru was bummed because this would mean more work and responsibility. Though, it did get his mother off his back. Meanwhile, things hadn't been going well with Naruto. Some of the villagers' old hate was starting to come back. Naruto figured it was because of his curse mark had been seen by a few nurses when he was in the hospital. Stupid civilian nurses. Anyway, the villagers were beginning to look at him with scorn again. They figured that Naruto would probably go crazy and leave the village like Orochimaru did, much like they did with Anko. Naruto also speculated that this was due to the fact that Naruto had grown powerful and the civilian council didn't have any control over him. Naruto walked to the Hokage tower and entered the office. The boy was surprised to see Summon there as well as the old man. You called for me, old man? Naruto asked. The old Kage said, sit down, Naruto. We have much to discuss. Naruto sat down in front of the desk next to his girlfriend. Naruto, the old man said, I noticed that some of the villagers' old hate is returning. I can only wonder why this is happening. Some answered, because Naruto is strong and they don't have him under their thumb like they want the strong people in the village, and Naruto got a curse mark from that snake freak that dared leave a hickey on my man. The old man looked at her and said, in a nutshell, yes. Naruto sighed and said, so what are we going to do? I swear if the villagers try to start beating on me again, heads are really going to roll. The old man said, I know this. That is why I've gotten a little training trip idea for you. Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, a training trip? The Kage looked at Naruto with stern eyes and said, yes. You see, Naruto, I have a source that has told me about a group of S-rank criminals called the Akatsuki. The group is apparently interested in the containers of the Biju. Given your status as a Jinchuriki, this makes you a target. Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, so what, you want me to train out of the village and grow stronger? The old man nodded and said, yes. I've arranged for you to have a teacher to help you. He might even be able to help you with sage arts. Given you have 4 summons, I've been meaning to ask, where did you get those? Naruto said, I found them in a tree in the forest of death. They told me of something bad happening. They said that there was a madman trying to take over the world. You think the Akatsuki might have something to do with this? The old man nodded and said, yes. Naruto, you need OT grow as strong as possible to fight these madmen. For those still decent in this village, take this training trip. Naruto said, okay, I'll do it. But I have one condition. The old man raised an eyebrow and said, 1. I want Some-chan to come with me. 2. I want to take one of the genin with me as well. Some asked, why would you want me to come with you? Why would you want a genin to come as well? Naruto said, because if I get attacked by a fangirl horde, you'll be able to scare them off. Plus, with Hana being the next clan head, she can get some experience running the clan. Besides, you do need to work on your skills so they don't get too rusty, and so you can keep this body of yours in check. Naruto pinched his girlfriend's, but making her let out a cry and blush slightly. Some thought for a second and said, okay. I'll go with you. Naruto said, where is this guy we're supposed to meet? The old man looked at the clock and said, judging by the time, I'd say that he should be at the hot springs by now. Naruto suddenly had a bad feeling come over him. Naruto said, let's go, Tsum. I have a feeling this will end painfully for someone. The 2 jonin got up and left. As they did, Sarutobi said, Jiraiya, you are going to be in a lot of pain. A few minutes later at the Konoha hot springs, Naruto and Sum arrived and instantly saw something that they didn't like. An old man wearing kabiki clothes with long white hair and a band on his head that had the kanji for oil was standing in front of the girl's side of the hot spring scribbling down on a notepad. Sum was Abu taught go and clawed the man to death when Naruto stopped her. He slowly snuck up behind the pervert with a devious grin. Naruto's eyes turned brown and green. His foot flashed brown with chakra and wind flowed around it. Naruto drew back his foot and yelled, "Stop peeping on the girls, you damn pervert!" The old man was sent flying into the air and crashed down on the female's side of the spring. Almost immediately the sound of impacts and screams of agony were heard. Ouch! Ow! No, that doesn't go there. A few minutes later the girly screams died down, and the old man was thrown over the wall a bloody beaten mess. After a couple of seconds the man jumped up and brushed himself off, as if nothing had actually happened. Okay, who kicked me? The man asked angrily. Naruto said, that would be you, old pervert. The man turned to Naruto and Sum before yelling, I am not a mere pervert. I am an artist who is inspired by the youth and beauty of this generation. Naruto cocked his head to the side and said, in other words, you're a super pervert. The man's face faulted so hard that his face was imprinted on the concrete. Anyway, Naruto said, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namix. The old man said I was to meet you here about a training trip. The old man picked himself up from the ground and said, my name is Jiraiya. I've heard some crazy stuff about you through the grapevine. Would you and your lady friend here tell me which is fact and fiction? Later at Ichiroka Ramen, Jiraiya's eyes were wide as the ramen bowls that sat in front of him. Sum and Kuramaru, who recently joined them for food, were also wide-eyed. The four legendary summon, the white-haired man said, and I thought that they were just a myth. Naruto said, trust me. I thought I was crazy too when I first saw them. I thought it was just some crazy dream at first. Sum whistled and said, now I'm really glad I'm dating you. Naruto said, so what will we be learning on this trip of ours? Jiraiya said, well, we can learn sage arts, new ninjutsu, and senjutsu or sage art. I'm sure something like that will come in great handy for you in the future. Naruto glanced at the man and said, okay. Sum-chan is coming with us though. You try to hit on her and I will tear out your insides and serve you to the wolves. Jiraiya gulped loudly and nodded. Naruto's look changed as he said, we leave tomorrow. Now I suggest that we get ready to leave. You might want to go pack and give the news to your clan. Sum nodded before getting up and kissing Naruto's cheek. Jiraiya said as Sum left, you don't have to worry about me flirting with your girlfriend, kid. I don't go for a woman like that. Naruto turned to the man and said, are you saying my girl is ugly? Jiraiya stuttered and tried to save himself as Naruto's eyes turned brown. Jiraiya was later found with multiple broken bones, a few minor lacerations tied to a post in the middle of the town square with his own underwear, which was stained with urine, stuffed into his mouth. Later, Naruto was walking to his clan compound when he was suddenly tapped on the shoulder. The boy turned around to see a Hyuga standing behind him. Yes, Hyuga-san? Naruto asked. The Hyuga bowed and said, Namikaze-sama, Lord Hayashi has asked for your presence. Naruto nodded and followed the man to the Hyuga manor. Once inside he led Naruto to his office and told him that Hayashi would be with him momentarily. A few minutes later Hayashi entered the room. Through his calm facade Naruto was able to sense an underlying hint of anger. You called for me, Hayashi-sama? Naruto asked. Hayashi sat down and said, yes. There is an issue going on with my clan involving my daughter, Hinata. Naruto looked at the man with interest. Hayashi continued, it seems that the Hyuga elders want to put Hinata through a test to see if she is worthy of being clan heiress. The problem is the fight is against her sister Hanabi, and with Hinata's gentle nature, well, you can guess how it will go. Naruto nodded. He knew the young Hyuga from what he read from her file. She was a gentle girl. She was almost too gentle for her own good. She would never dream of harming her little sister. Hayashi continued, if she loses she will be stripped of status as clan heiress, be branded with the caged bird seal, and banished to the branch family. If that happens I'll lose her, I'll lose what little bit I have left to remember my dear wife. Naruto said, you want me to train her like I did Sakura and Ami, don't you? The man nodded and said, yes. You helped two civilian girls become strong enough to take on a prodigy, and the daughter of a Hokage. Please, help me save my daughter from a horrible fate. Naruto thought for a second and said, I am going on a training trip tomorrow. I guess I could bring her along with me. It will allow us to train away from prying eyes. Of course I will need your approval on this. In a matter of seconds Hayashi had the document printed, signed, stamped, and made official. You work fast when you want to, Naruto said shocked. He took the paper and signed his name. There, Naruto said, inform your daughter and tell the council. We'll be leaving in the morning. The following morning, Naruto stood at the village gates. With him were Jiraiya, Sum, and a very nervous-looking Hinata. As they started to leave they were approached by Hayashi. Hinata, he said, there are two things I wish for you to do when you are gone with Naruto. Hinata stuttered, yes, father? The man said, 1. Don't change while you're gone. 2. When you come back beat some humility into your little sister. She's becoming more and more like the Uchiha every day. Hinata giggled a bit. Naruto whispered, did Hayashi just make a joke? Sum answered, I believe he did. Jiraiya said, come on kid. We got a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it. With that the four left. It would be 3 long years before they would be seen again by anyone in Konoha. 3 years had passed since Naruto had gotten a curse mark and left with his girlfriend Sum and with Hinata. The trio traveled the elemental nations, meeting a lot of people and even saving a village or two. While training, Naruto got used to his curse mark when he turned it on and off. It turns out the curse mark made it much easier for Naruto to control the purified version of Kyuubi's chakra. This also allowed Naruto to access all the tailed forms easily. Despite the easiness, it turns out the extra strain from the super-powered chakra actually caused Naruto to become exhausted, especially if he went all the way to the 9-tailed form. He could also access his own curse mark form. He also got to work on making his own versions of the Rasengan, and working on a way to improve the Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique. Sim got her own training as well. When Naruto got her affinity, which was fire, he taught her some new fresh-made jutsu that only she would know. She also taught her some special moves to use in case Kuramaru wasn't around. Speaking of the dog, he was also given some impressive jutsu when Naruto asked about it. Hinata got her one little tricks as well. The girl's affinity was actually lightning, which was strange considering that the normal Hyuga affinity was earth. Naruto effectively taught the girl a few of his own lightning jutsu as well as a few special techniques that were a mix of lighting techniques and the Juken style. He even taught her how to combine the Juken and the hummingbird style. While traveling, the group ran into an old weaponsmith, emphasis on the word old. They were amazed the old-timer could lift up a hammer. They were shocked to find out that this old man was in fact the man who forged the swords that belonged to the 7 swordsmen of the mist. When the 3 ninjas saved his village from a horde of bandits, he decided to reward them by forging special weapons. With permission from his summons, the old man actually broke down Naruto's 4 weapons and combined them into a one long sword. The 4 weapons combined to form a new, more powerful weapon. It was a specialized long sword that had a long black blade that had a black serpent tied around the hilt acting as a guard. The black blade had the kanji for dragon, phoenix, tortoise, and tiger in white on the blades. The old man also used an old forging technique that allowed Naruto to cause the sword to shape-shift when he used a specific verbal command. Other similar allowed him to use powerful techniques without hand signs. Kuramaru got a specialized dagger that went on a sheath on his shoulder and could be wielded in his teeth. This also acted as an enhancement for one of his giant drill techniques. On top of that, when the dog focused his chakra into his mouth, the chakra would cause the blade to extend, making this dog very dangerous. Some got a special type of gloves. The woman got a special pair of normal leather gloves. When chakra would focus, the leather would gain the effectiveness of metal. Then fingers would gain iron claws and become very effective when used with her usual taijutsu style. As for Hinata, the old man wasn't able to find anything that would suit her. He had already forged a weapon that used lightning chakra, and he swore on his father's grave that he would never create the same kind of weapon twice. He did tell her that the man who had it was in an old mining village. They went to the village and were surprised to see the village was taken over by a missing nin by the name of Raiga. They fought and freed the village from the funeral-obsessed man, and Hinata took his swords to use as her own. They also found that there was a young child named Ranmaru who had a special pair of eyes that could cast a powerful illusion that even the Byakugan couldn't see through. They left the child in the care of an old woman who ran a curry shop. After that, the group continued their training. Finally, after 3 long years, they were returning to Konoha with a little extra baggage. Konoha's front gate. I spy with my little eye. Kotetsu started but was interrupted by Izumo. Enough with that stupid game already. The Chunin yelled, "There isn't anything around here to spy except tree, grass, and the occasional squirrel." The man said, "Wait, I got something this time. I spy something that starts with H." Izumo said, "I don't know, a hog?" Izumo's fellow Chunin answered, "Nope, hot blonde woman." Izumo looked at Kotetsu strangely until he pointed and saw that there were some very familiar people approaching. It was Naruto, Sum, and Hinata. Their physical appearances had changed. Sum had gotten a new black shirt with a gray jacket and long tight pants that actually worked for her style. She also had her new pair of gloves on. By her side was Kuromaru, who had a sheath with his dagger still there. Naruto had gotten a new black leather jacket with the kanji for earth, water, fire, lightning, and went in that order on his sleeve. On his back was a large kanji symbol for the element sage that had the image of a tortoise, a dragon, a tiger, and a phoenix on his back. What got their attention was what was on his hip. It was a long sword that had a black serpent wrapped around his sword. Hinata was walking with them. The pair of Chunin could tell by the way she walked that she had more confidence than before. Her hair had grown much longer down to her lower back. She wore a shit shirt and a short jacket that showed her slightly larger than normal chest. She also had some long jeans and some sandals. On her back was a pair of dual swords that had a long point on the blade close to the hilt, and another one close to the top. There were 3 other people that they didn't know. The first girl wore an orange clip in her short, spiky mint green hair that matched her eye color, which was also orange. Her outfit consisted of a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over it. She also carried a cylindrical object in red wrapping on her back. The second girl had long, straight, blonde hair bound with taut bandages and dark eyes. She wore a short-sleeved black and purple blouse, black pants, both of which had a design similar to clouds on them, purple fingerless gloves, and a chain of white beads wound around her left hand. She also had on a pair of sandals and kunai holster which was strapped to her right thigh. She also wore bandages around her arms and legs as well as a red belt around her waist. The final girl was riding on Naruto's shoulder. It was a little girl of about 3 or 4 years of age. She had mint green hair and pale skin. She had a pair of blue eyes like Naruto's and wore a little red dress that had butterflies on it. The group approached them and said, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Samanzuka, and Hinata Hyuga, returning from a 3-year training trip with these 3. The 2 Chunin said papers. Naruto presented his forms and handed them to the 2 Chunin. With that they got into the village. When they entered they were immediately hit with looks from the villagers. A few of the girls were looking at Naruto with lust and wanting in their eyes. They also gave squeals happy looks toward the little girl on Naruto's shoulder. The men were giving angry looks at Naruto for getting the girls' attention, and were giving lustful looks at the girls who were with them. While the older men were looking at some while the teenagers were looking at Hinata, the green-haired girl, and the blonde girl with lust. The older men may have been entranced by beauty, but they wouldn't hit on a girl that much younger than them. When they arrived at the Hokage's office they were shocked to see, not the old man, but a young blonde, well-endowed woman sitting at the desk. With the woman was a young woman with black hair, a black GI, and had a pig at her feet. The little girl on Naruto's shoulder squealed before jumping down and grabbed the animal and started to cuddle it. I take it you're Naruto, the woman said. Naruto answered yes. Who are you? The blonde said. My name is Tsunade Senju. The black-haired girl is my assistant Shizun, and the pig currently being cuddled to death is Tuntun. Old man Sarutobi retired a while back and I took his place. He's currently spent his time helping his son, Asuma, train his grandson Konohamaru. The pig let out a pleased oink as the little girl scratched her at the right spot behind the ear. I know who you 3 are, Tsunade said. What I don't know is who you 3 are. She motioned to the 3 new people in the room. The little girl finally let Tuntun go, much to the pig's relief as it was getting very hard to breathe. The green-haired girl said, My name is Fu, formerly of Takigakure, Hidden Waterfall. I'm here with Naruto-kun to join Konoha. The blonde said, My name is Yujito Ni, formerly of Kumogakure, Hidden Cloud. I'm here to join Konoha as well. The little girl turned and said, My name is Kira. I'm just traveling with my mommy and daddy. Tsunade looked at the girl and then turned to Naruto and Fu to see the collection of their appearance, and immediately connected the dots. Can somebody explain this? She asked in a calm voice. Naruto turned to Shizun and said, Hey Shizun, right? Would you mind taking Kira to the park? I think it would be a good idea for her to get out a little bit. Shizun walked over to the little girl and held out a hand. Kira looked nervously at the stranger before looking at her daddy. Naruto nodded and said, Don't worry. She's okay. Kira reluctantly took Shizun's hand and walked out with her to the park. Tsunade said, Could you explain to me why it is you have a little girl with you and these 2? Naruto said, Well, it started when we came across Takigakure. You see, the village's leader, Shibuki, was being attacked by a bunch of missing ninja who wanted to take a treasure from their village called the Hero's Water. We came in and saved them. When that happened I was given the royal treatment by Fu here. Kira-chan was a result. When that happened Sim scowled and turned away from Fu with a deep scowl. Are you still upset about that? Fu asked. You captured my boyfriend and then used him. Sim said, Yes, I'm still angry. You're just lucky that your daughter brought out my maternal instincts, and that she is so adorable. Fu scowled. Naruto continued, Unfortunately there was an unexpected problem. You see, Fu was the Jinchuriki in the village, and she was almost killed by a mob for corrupting the village's new hero. We managed to get her out of there before something really bad happened. About a year later we had Kira-chan. Fu didn't want to leave her baby, so, after getting permission to leave from Shibuki, who happened to be her cousin, she came with us. Naruto glanced at Sumwas, who just shook her head a little bit annoyed. What's wrong with her? Tsunade asked, seeing the woman angry. She's just angry because she can't give any adorable babies to Naruto-kun, Yujito teased, making the woman flare. Before a catfight begins, Tsunade said, Why are you so far away from Kumo? Yujito said, It started back in Kumo. You see, I'm the Jinchuriki of the two-tailed demon cat. The council in my village found out about Naruto's strength, summons, and bloodline. In their infinite wisdom, they sent me on a seduction mission to get Naruto and take his seed to my village to start a clan of element controllers. Naruto proceeded to beat me on my butt. He went to Kumo and told the Raikage, who sees me like a niece, and told him about it. He tore the council a new one since I could have been killed or captured by some crazy nut jobs. He allowed me to leave with Naruto-kun, knowing that I would be happier away from the village because some of the people there do want me dead. Tsunade said, Why do you want to join the village? Yujito answered, For one thing, we want to stay close to Naruto-kun. Second, I don't want to deal with the council morons back in Kumo. Fu said ditto. Tsunade said, Okay. I'll send the Raikage and the leader of Taki a letter to see if it is okay for you to stay here. For now, as per procedure, I'm going to have to put you under A&BU guard for about a month before I let you 2 go on missions. Now I suggest that you go get Kira from the park, because seeing as how some of the girls in this village are with adorable things, you might want to get her before she gets kidnapped. Naruto's eyes widened when he heard that and vanished in a flash of yellow. Was that what I thought it was? Tsunade asked. All the girls present nodded. In Konoha's main park, Naruto appeared in the park in a flash of yellow. He looked around a little panicked and sighed in relief when he saw his little girl playing in a nearby sandbox with Shizen watching her like a hawk. Kira looked up and yelled, "Daddy?" The little girl jumped up into Naruto's arms, giggling, making Naruto laugh. He hefted her onto her shoulder. "Where are we going now, Daddy?" she asked. Naruto answered, "We need to go to Hinata Basin's house. She needs to take a very important test." Kira nodded before they headed toward the Hyuga Manor. As they went, they were met by Hinata. "Where are the others?" Nero asked. Hinata answered, "Sumsen went to her clan compound to see if it is still in one piece. Yujito and Fu went to your clan compound, led by ANBU, to check the place out and to relax after the long journey." Naruto said, "Now then, let's go crack some heads." Kira giggled and walked with Naruto and Hinata to the clan compound. When the three entered, Kira was almost kidnapped by a few other Hyuga women. After that incident was over, Kira was given to a caretaker and was sent to play with some of the other Hyuga toddlers. Naruto made sure to keep an eye on her by sending a shadow clone that was transformed into a stuffed fox that Kira took with her. When they entered the training room, they were greeted by Hayashi, Hanabi, Niji, and all 10 members of the Hyuga Council. "Welcome back, Hinata," Hayashi said. "How was your trip?" Hinata smiled and said, "Very interesting too, San." The head of the Hyuga Council said, "Enough idle chatter. Hinata Hyuga, you have been summoned here to test your abilities to see if you are worthy of the title of heiress. You shall fight your younger sister Hanabi to see if you are worthy." Hinata said, "No. I won't fight my sister, nor will I fight Niji-san." The council grinned. If she didn't fight, then that meant that her title was forfeit and she would be sent to the branch family where a weakling like her belonged. Hinata pointed at the council and said, "I'll fight you, all of you." The council was shocked. They hadn't expected this. Niji, Hanabi, and Hayashi were shocked as well and looked at the girl with a look of complete surprise. The council members stood up and got ready to fight. They were completely ignorant to Hinata's power as she dropped the 2 swords she had on her back and handed them to Naruto. Hinata also took off her jacket and got into her own version of the Juken stance, which was a mix of the Juken stance and the hummingbird-style basic stance. The youngest, and most arrogant, of the Hyuga Council said, "Don't worry, little girl, I'll make this nice and painless." He charged forward with his Byakugan activated. Hinata hadn't activated hers yet. She aptly dodged the attack before slamming a Juken strike into the man's elbow joint. The man cried out in pain as he felt the joint break. A sudden sweep kick knocked him off his feet. Hinata spun around on her hands and slammed her heel down on the man's head, knocking him out. The remaining 9 members looked on in shock. She had just utterly destroyed a Hyuga Council member in just 3 hits. The remaining 9 members of the council got into their own stances and rushed Hinata. The girl finally activated her Byakugan and got into her own stance. Council member number 2 charged at Hinata and threw a pair of strikes. Hinata dodged 1 strike before sending out a strike to the woman's shoulder. The young girl unleashed a barrage of strikes, lightning fast, and swung around, kicking her in the face, knocking her back. Council member 3 and 4 charged and tried to use the 64 palms technique, only for Hinata to actually dodge number 3's attack before grabbing number 4's arms before swinging him around like a bat, and knocked number 3 to the ground and knocked him out before throwing number 4 into the air and unleashed a fury of Juken strikes that closed his chakra points and knocked him out. Member 5 and 6 tried to attack from the front and back at the same time. Hinata jumped and flipped over number 5, causing them to hit each other and knock the other out. Number 7 charged and threw flurry of strikes. Hinata countered with her own assault. Hinata's strikes had lighting chakra laced into them and electrocuted the man, knocking him out and burning his hands. Member number 8 charged at her with chakra flowing into his fingers. Juken, Heart Destroyer. Hinata saw this coming and spun around and said, "Lightning style, shocking rotation." The council member's strike met Hinata's electrified chakra dome. The result was a few thousand bolts of electricity through his body and frying his heart. The man fell to the ground, smoking slightly. The final member of the council, Hayashi's grandfather, said, "Niji, the rest of you, come here and help me." Niji said that wasn't part of the deal. "I won't help you fight my cousin," the old man said. "Too bad." The man then made a ram sign and fell to the ground with extreme pain going through his body. Hinata growled before lightning chakra coursed through her hands, and she charged forward. She called out, "Lightning style, Twin Thunder Lions." Hinata's hands ignited with electricity that formed a pair of lion heads that roared angrily. The man then felt the lightning attack pierce his body and sent a lot of bolts right through him. The man cried out in agony as the group of branch members rose up, regaining the feeling in their bodies as the pain washed away. Hanabi looked around her to see the council defeated by the so-called weakling of the Hyuga clan. She turned to Hayashi and said, "Tusan, if Hinata is a weakling, then I want to be a weakling."